Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy my toque here, or you Americans call it a beanie. We call it a toque up here. This is my Boston Terrier toque from my buddy Baxter. Yeah, my buddy Baxter sent this to me, and Baxter is my buddy Mark's dog, Mark and Tara's dog, and I got to show you this, okay? Baxter literally listens to the show each night. Each night, he paused at their phone to see me. Here's a photo proof. There's me on the phone and Baxter watching Spaced Out Radio. That dog's into the woo and sent me a nice hat, so I figured I would wear it tonight. Thank you, Baxter. I very much appreciate it, and we'll play fetch soon. We'll play fetch soon. Anyways, how y'all doing? We're going to get into a subject that just pisses me off tonight. Darcy Weir is here. He's got a brand new film out called Secret Space UFOs, NASA's first missions. Our first astronauts saw UFOs. You know how pissed off I have been about NASA recently. Darcy's going to fire me up again. I know this. He's got a fantastic beard. Look at that beard on Darcy right there. We'll take them out here momentarily. But you know what? We're going to in for a great show. Let's say hello to everybody tonight. Race fan in the gold medal position. We have Nightmare in the silver and Luscious Jewels in the bronze medal tonight. Hi, Shiro. Hi, Black Dragon, one of our favorite veterans, a great Marine right there, Black Dragon is. Thank you for your service. Lisa C., good to see you. Hi, Crystal J. And Brown Dwarf, nice to have you here. Roy Boy, good to have you back as we continue on with our roll call. And who else do we have here? Mondak's has been here for a while. Back on the night shift. Good to have you here, Mondak. Mondak will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. There's Pixie Lara. Nice to see you. Nikki in Seattle. Thanks for coming on in. Smithy, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. Very much appreciate your love and support of SOR. And the Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on a nightly basis. Hi, Raz. How you doing? Good to have you here. And who else do we have coming on in? Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start the show. Sugar Britches, thank you for joining us tonight. Very much appreciate it. And Pam Harris, always a pleasure to have you here. Cosmic Floor, Kanga Anon. Gloria is back. There she is. Give us a wave, Gloria. Wave to Gloria. She always waves back. Anonymous Rex. Hey there, little Timmy Senor. Evan Walters is here. He's pissing me off, but he is going to be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Lori Barnes, thank you for joining us tonight. Vash the Impaler, good to see you. Hi, Dirty Filth in the chat room. JSCO, how are you? Oob to Joe's Main, you've got aliens. And, there's a little Marky Spender right there with Baxter. Baxter says, brother, long lost brother. Amy Vegas, how are you? Addie Overbay, welcome to SOR chat. Thank you for joining us. And who else do we have? Paramarv, Ozzy, oi, oi to you, my friend, as we're going to start the Spreaker side of things, the radio side. And we're going to let Bill WD-40 come on in and lube us up for tonight's show. Bombshell Bomber, good to have you here. And Grandizer, thanks for coming on in. W. David Page, Apollo 11, Penman, good to see you all. And who else do we have? Commonwealth Andrew, good morning to you. Number 17 in your program, number 1 in your hearts, from Pattaya, Sweden, Lars Jansson. Yeah, he could be a Canuck with all the Swedes on the Vancouver Canucks, that's for sure. And let's see, who else do we have? YJ Overlander, 405er. How you doing, guys? Human Carl is here, another great veteran. Human Carl, not to be misconstrued with Alien Carl, but we're glad Human Carl is here. Thank you for joining us, my friend. Midwest Night Watchers, thank you for joining us. Chili Peen, welcome to SOR Chat. And who else do we have here as we were running out of time? Let's see, where are we? Scrolling. Penny Van, thank you for joining us. And reminder to all of you that our store is open on our website. We're ready to rock and roll. Super Chat is open. Horns up. Let's rock. From the snowy mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Sharky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. It is a power show of entertainment tonight as we get into my loathing and disgust of NASA and their UFO cover-up. Filmmaker Darcy Weir is here. We're going to get into that momentarily. In hour number 3, Swamp Dweller is back with another spooky story. Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio will be here for the Crypted Report. I've got the Dave 101. Sharky Poo has the news. Now, there are very few times in my radio career that I actually get really, really upset and fired up. You know, when you're a sportscaster like I was back in the day, there's not much that upsets you unless it was your team getting eliminated from the playoffs early. So then you would have to spend the summer covering, God forbid, soccer. Yeah, I had that plight. It was horrible. It was disgusting. It was discouraging as a journalist. But since I got into this subject, there are very few subjects that upset me. This one really does. And if you've been following this show for the last number of months, you will have heard me rant and rave many a times about Executive Director Bill Nelson and NASA and the fools that they are playing us regarding unidentified flying objects. Bill Nelson started this shortly after he took over NASA, where he said he had actually viewed and talked to many naval fighter pilots who had eyewitnessed unidentified flying objects. Not UAP, because we UFO around here. And it fired me up because I started tweeting Bill Nelson. I started tweeting NASA. When are you going to open your closets? Hashtag open your closets. And the funny part about it is, nobody in the UFO world seemed to care. Nobody was really jumping on the bandwagon, except us and very few others. Tonight we have Darcy Weir. He's an independent filmmaker, good Canadian kid, grows a good winter beard, okay? And he has a brand new film out, which I highly suggest all of you tune on in. If you don't believe me about NASA lying to you, this documentary will prove it. It is called Secret Space UFOs. NASA's first missions, our first astronauts saw UFOs. And if this show tonight doesn't upset you that there is a UFO cover up and that there is an agenda going on, nothing will. Darcy Weir, thank you so much, my friend, for coming back on Spaced Out Radio. It's always a pleasure to have you here. How you been doing?
Great. Thanks for having me on, Dave. It's always a pleasure to be here.
You know what, Darcy? You hit a real touchy subject with me. And before we go any further, we do have to disclose that you had asked me to do some voiceover work for this documentary. So I want to put it out there that I'm not having a rage against NASA because I worked with you on this project. But I do want to say that my rant started a few months before. We actually talked about that before you actually sent me over some voiceover work to do. But we do have to disclose that to our audience. And I want to say thank you so much for that opportunity as well.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking part in the creative process. I've worked with many different people on my films throughout the years, and your voice is golden, man. It's like a bar of gold coming through audio. So good for you, and thank you for taking part. I think, you know, I share your frustration. I share your anger and madness towards NASA. I've been reaching out to them this whole year trying to get an interview with Bill Nelson about this new UFO, his statements about how he takes UFOs seriously. And NASA has just totally stonewalled me. Um, and I'm speaking with their PR representative now. Then, in the past 2 weeks, they've come out and said that they're putting together a UFO research project. And, it's just insane how much they're going into this arena of research. But they won't speak to somebody like me that's been looking into this for the past 10 plus years, making these different documentaries. And I mean, I'm frustrated. I think, in my opinion, whatever they're going to research now, it better acknowledge a lot of the phenomenon from since the 1940s and on. Because if it doesn't, then it's a slap in the face to the whole research community, the civilian research community that's been putting this in the mainstream media's hands for many years now. We know that if it weren't for people like us that were standing up to the mainstream media and saying, take this seriously, there's something here, it wouldn't be covered at all. And NASA, since its inception, since 1959, has been involved with that cover up, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And you read some of the documents that I had you, narrate, which involve the civilian researchers that went after the footage and the still images that came out of the X-15 mission, which this was the very first NASA astronaut classification. The first time a craft had been out of the atmosphere and in low Earth orbit.
Darcy, I'm going to get you to hold on. I'm going to get you to hold on right there. I'm going to get you to bring your microphone a little bit closer to your face. You're sounding quite quiet there, my friend.
Yep. Do you want me to play with my settings here? Turn it up a little bit?
If you could turn your microphone up a little bit, that would be great if you could, because you're going to have some real impactful information tonight, and we want to make sure that our audience gets it all.
How's this sound?
Much a little bit better. We're still a little quiet. I'll try and bump you on my end.
No, I got it. There we go. How's that?
Better. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so essentially, NASA has been tasking, or at least the military in conjunction with NASA, has been tasking early NASA space explorers, astronauts, with taking photos and video footage while they're in space. And one of the things that early NASA astronauts reported were on the X-15 missions that one of their mission goals was to capture footage and pictures of UFOs. And, this is pretty well documented. These are astronauts that went on record saying this. And then after the fact, there were civilian researchers asking NASA for that footage because apparently, this was published in Life magazine and pretty well reported at the time in the 60s. These civilian researchers got the same experience I'm having now, which was they were being stonewalled. And it essentially came down to NASA finally writing, this is in one of the letters that you narrated. Sorry, but this information, these videos, these pictures are only for individuals that have the need to know. And where have we heard that phrase before, especially in the UFO research community? Need to know. This is a way to get somebody like us off your backs when it comes to the military, when it comes to any research organization that might have information that we the people, are trying to access. And so I found that pretty interesting. And in this documentary, we kind of go from the X-15 missions right through to Mercury and, Gemini and so on. We don't cover Apollo in this. It's only the missions leading up to, but we cover all of the documented UFO pictures, DAC motion picture video film, and then the audio transcripts from the black box flight recorder. Basically, it was called the VTR on the Gemini missions. And look, this seems to be that many astronauts in the very first space missions were recording all kinds of anomalous things happening verbally, with pictures and with motion picture footage, if that was something we could get our hands on. But I think NASA has mountains of this type of data that's not in the public forum, that we don't have access to. And to see them, come forward now and say, oh, we're interested in UFOs, we're going to research them. It's like, what about all of these years prior to now where there were supposed UFO events in outer space in our early days of space travel, and you completely ignored the public's interest and request for access of this data?
And you see, that it right there is what I find very disturbing, is how Bill Nelson, and he has to take the fault. He really does have to take the fault on how he came out publicly. NASA wasn't talking UFOs up until Bill Nelson, for some reason, went up on the podium after he took over and started talking about this subject. And it made a lot of interesting queries into why all of a sudden they're talking about it. And the idea behind that press conference that I found very confusing, and we'll get into this later in the show as well, Darcy, is the idea that he was going off on a tangent that really he had no business going on. And he never once mentioned NASA and what they saw. It was all about what he had seen in the videos from the United States naval pilots that were filmed. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that seems like a real contradiction in what we know and what we can perceive as, what are they doing? What are they trying to prove here? I mean, did you take it that way as well?
Well, I just get this greater sense that it's information control, and there has to be some other kind of plan with this disclosure, this trickle of information that's slowly coming out from uh, mainstream media, but also our military and research agencies. And NASA is the creme de la creme of research agencies. It's supposed to be the greatest authority in science, right? Aerospace and space, outer space. So to me, there has to be some kind of other motive going on here. Um, the only reason I say that, I mean, the fact that Bill Nelson said he spoke to the pilots. Um, why? Unless he had an interest in UFOs personally, why is he being placed with these pilots to get firsthand information from them about their UFO experiences in the Navy? And then why is it that people like myself are reaching out to Bill Nelson's team and saying, please, can we interview Bill or somebody now that's on this supposed UFO research panel that's starting up, which I think some of them are from SETI, right? And SETI's spent many, many years now basically debunking UFOs and anything to do with a possibility of extraterrestrial life being existing out there. So it's kind of interesting in that regard with this panel of members. But why is that they don't, you know, why is that it's so locked down in terms of who they talk to? Um, I guess we're going to find out as time goes by. And I think it might just be an official program, research program, kind of Project Blue Book or Project Grudge, that, they officially say it's China or it's Russia or the UFOs are just prosaic objects. That could be what they're trying to do here. Just rein it in and have a very mainstream, high authority scientific agency come forth and say, there's nothing to see here.
Are you surprised, Darcy, that not a single member of the mainstream media has uh, has contacted you or even covered any possibility of this NASA cover up? I find that absolutely unconscionable.
Well, I'm the one usually contacting them, to be honest. The mainstream media doesn't even know me. I'm a fly on the wall. I'm just a little guy that likes to research this stuff, and I I'm just insulted that they don't respond to my queries for like NASA, for example, about this UFO research program. Maybe I didn't use the word that they wanted to hear, UAP. I don't know, but I'm not going to use that. I prefer, the official terminology that has been around forever now. But I'm not surprised. Um, I'm just doing my due diligence and trying to get all this data, put it into a sound documentary format so that people can see a timeline of events, they can see the facts, and they can see the communication that's happened. I mean, NASA has been asked about UFOs since its inception, especially with X-15 missions, with Mercury, with the Gemini project. All of these missions, they've been asked about UFOs because in some form or another, there have been some anomalies and some kind of UFO activity that astronauts have spoke about or taken photos of, or sometimes it's been caught on motion picture DAC footage, like I said before. So, um, you know, I think they're smart. I think they're just doing the right thing for them, and they're creating this research program to control the information.
I agree. It's all about control. And like we have been telling our audience for a number of months, what we are seeing today is not disclosure. There's nothing about disclosure in what we are seeing through this entire process, whether it's through NASA, whether it's through Congress, the 17 different task forces that we have seen set up over the last year and a half. I mean, this isn't disclosure. If people can't see an obvious cover up here, this is dangerous, Darcy. This is dangerous for the subject because, as I've said to our audience, and we only got about 3 minutes to go here before we go to break, you have very few people on this planet that are controlling a story that is going to affect 7.75 billion on this planet. This is a story when it comes to UFOs. Everybody from the pygmies living in the jungles of Africa to the Amazon tribes to those living in the concrete jungles around the world's metropolises, every single person is going to be affected by this. There isn't a person this isn't going to touch. And to know that, we see this so-called disclosure coming through, I think it's ridiculous. I think there's a real job being played here, and humanity are the fools for it.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I don't think, we're still waiting on this report that's supposed to be coming out, and why is that being pushed back so much? Is it going to end up being like the last UFO report, that was like 20 pages, and we heard that there were supposed to be 200 pages? Um, where's all the declassified, or where's the classified material? I want, when Trump in 2020, at the end of 2020, you know, made that executive order, had that bill established that eventually in 2021 the CIA released their UFO documents. That was kind of a game changer, and we went through some of the documents. We found in that um, some information we put in the documentary, and that was all these researchers trying to find out what happened with the footage, what happened with the pictures from these early space images from NASA. And the fact that the CIA had that, what are all these other research agencies or intelligence agencies doing? And why have they not released these documents, or was it just the CIA that had access to this stuff? There still needs to be a lot of clarity on this, and I think when this report finally comes out, um, maybe we'll get a bit more clarity on that. I'm not sure, but to me, it'll be a nothing burger.
Darcy, when we come back from the break, we're going to get into your documentary, which is Secret Space UFOs, NASA's first missions. Our first astronauts saw UFOs. We're going to get into the X-15. We're going to get into why this is important, why the public needs to pay attention to the lies and the cover-ups that we see the world's largest space agency making when it comes to UFOs. We return on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, bud, we're clear. Remember, our audience on YouTube and the podcast can hear us. Great show so far. Great show so far. High quality info. And a fantastic beard. By the way, we want to give a shout out to Cable Guy Matt in the chat room tonight. Remember, Cable Guy Matt is your number one person when it comes to coaxial cable. If you hit him up, he will send you a free piece of coaxial cable. He'll even autograph it. Remember, folks, you cannot buy these in stores. Limit one per household. Cable Guy Matt, everyone. Yes. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Yep. Let's see here. I gotta get this open up. I always forget to do this. How has the response been for the film so far, Darce?
Good. Sorry, I'm just going through some of my notes here. It's been good. I've had a bunch of friends watch it. My friend Scott Santa, Penelope Bradley, Victoria Monday, and yeah, some of them have left some cool reviews on the Amazon Prime page. Um, it's getting out there. I've got friends in the UK that have watched it. Um, One of my buddies watched it on iTunes. I think it's like Apple TV or something over there, and he left a review. So yeah, it's getting out there. Richard Dolan, I was on Richard Dolan's show not too long ago, and a bunch of his you know fans reached out to me after and said, saw the doc, it's pretty good. So it's getting some pretty good
Good.
feedback. Yeah,
Good.
I think it's just one of those cases where people don't fully know about the early days of NASA and how there was even UFO activity going on then, and yeah, it's old material, but with some new stuff put in there.
I don't think it's that old because, I mean, realistically, in my opinion, Bill Nelson is the one who really stuck his foot in his mouth when he went up on his press conference and started talking about this, because nobody had asked him the UFO question. He just delved right into it. Now, I don't believe for a second that he didn't know. Okay, I don't believe that for a second. That he is the man is too smart not to know. He's known too many astronauts not to know. You know, and we'll get into that a little bit in a couple of minutes here. But I think that is the most disappointing aspect for me, is seeing the lie come right to fruition. You know what I'm saying? Like, I find that very painful and insulting, not just for me, but for our entire audience and
Mm,
people who have experience. And I don't really, in my everyday life, I don't let my parents treat me like fools. I don't let my boss treat me like a fool. My daytime boss. And, I don't, why would I let somebody like this treat me like I'm stupid?
yeah, yeah, I know, man. I've got a daytime boss too. I'm working the 9 to 5, and then doing this creative stuff on the side. And I think, um, yeah, when you first see Bill Nelson talk, you you get excited. Like, if you don't know enough about this subject, you might not. You might be like, why is this, NASA guy talking about, why is the head administrator of NASA speaking about UFOs? So that's one gotcha there, because it's like, hey, this guy's talking about UFOs in a major way, you know? So for people that aren't clued in, that's one gotcha. And then if you are clued into the UFO subject, you're like, what? Like, why is NASA considering talking about this now? And of course, there must have been a conversation beforehand where somebody's saying to Bill Nelson,
Oh, here we go.
goes,
Hold on. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. And our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Sharky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Darcy Weir is here, independent filmmaker. And you know what? He's got a brand new film it's on Apple, it's on Google, it's on Amazon Prime. Secret Space UFOs, NASA's first missions, our first astronauts saw UFOs. Darcy, in this film, all right, you have got some incredible footage of pilots, of astronauts talking about what they are seeing in the sky. And I find that very intriguing. How did you find this information?
So I partnered up not too long ago with another secret space sort of researcher, a guy that is a total NASA nerd. Um, I mean that in the most loving and good way possible. Nerds are cool. But yeah, my friend Kerry Martinuke, he he basically went into the NASA archives and he downloaded all of the transcripts that came out of the VTR, which is a black box, basically flight recorder for the Gemini missions. He got as many photos as he could from the NASA archives and DAC motion picture footage as well. And he just went through it all. And when I met him, I said, okay, can you give me that footage? And I'm going to present this with recent findings, considering the information released from the CIA papers in 2021, early 2021 about UFOs, and just everything that's been happening in the media since. So that's how I got a lot of this really cool archival footage. And, the pilots, there's just all of these NASA pilots, you've got Joe, you got Robert White, Major Robert White from the X-15 mission. You've got Joseph Walker also. And Joseph Walker stated that, it was part of his mission objective secretly by NASA to take film and still images of UFOs when he was test flying the X-15 at apogee in space, basically. And, Robert Walker, he was the first to go to the press, and famously in Life magazine, did another deep dive interview with them about what he saw on that very first flight that he did at apogee in space. And when he radioed back to NASA, there's something out here. There really is. that shocked the world, and it's been happening. That was the very first NASA flights in the Project Mercury. They also had astronauts get distracted by anomalies and possible UFOs in space. And if you watch the film, you'll see that one of the astronauts got fired because he was reporting this anomalous activity in space. And I find that pretty interesting that NASA kind of made it an example of this astronaut, trying to make sure that future astronauts in Project Gemini, for example, that came after Mercury, would not make the same mistake, would not report UFOs. And, John Glenn was the very first Project Mercury astronaut. But, not soon after, you had other astronauts that were going to be going up there. And John Glenn was the first to report fireflies, right? We do know, though, that they weren't actual UFOs that John Glenn saw, but we know that there was this interest in UFOs super early, even in that capsule flight. The earlier missions that were just to be in space going around the Earth before we went out to the moon. John Glenn is seeing something he doesn't understand. And the fact that he was so in awe and surprised and thought maybe I'm seeing some kind of extremophile, some kind of form of life that can live in the void. That was interesting enough that people just did not know what to expect out there in space in such early days of space travel. So yeah, it took a lot of time to put together all this footage and find these interviews post mission. In the 90s, many of these astronauts who are now no longer with us, they spoke about their experiences in space, and they, basically, it seemed like they were just told to shut up and not to talk about the UFO issue. And it's too bad. It seems like that's been the standard since, so long ago, and it really hasn't changed. It's some astronauts have come forward and talked about their events in space that can't really be. But Scott Carpenter, when he got distracted by fireflies or something, we don't know exactly what he was seeing that distracted him so much. The NASA sort of PR exercise after that mission, the reason why they said they fired Scott Carpenter was because he ran out of fuel and he endangered himself, and therefore he didn't re-enter properly into the atmosphere. But he didn't run out of fuel. You can see in the documentary, there's a way to find, the information online too. You can find it on YouTube, that he, in the audio recording of him re-entering the atmosphere, he basically says, I'm low on fuel. I'm not all out. But NASA had decided to make an example of him and to basically say, he screwed up big time. He did miss his landing area quite a bit, but he still made it back okay. And I think that it frustrated him that he got essentially fired after that. Project Gemini, which had so many more anomalies than what were previously reported in the early NASA space missions, those astronauts, didn't talk about UFOs at all either. They were even more against it, and you start to see signs of astronauts joking about what they're seeing in space in uh, the transcripts from what they saw when they were up there. They kind of make a they make a joke out of it, and you see that later on in the Apollo missions too, in those transcripts and audio recordings, anything that we've actually been able to get.
I find that very disturbing. I find it very disturbing in what we have seen and heard regarding this. And, the idea that, you know, astronauts, even though you're only dealing with Gemini and Mercury, but astronauts right through Apollo, the shuttle program, and even the programs right up to the International Space Station, where even a week and a half ago, there was another astronaut who just came out and stated that he saw a check mark shape of lights flying through the space. And James Oberg, who is a credited skeptic of anything UFO, what was saying, well, you actually saw the reflection from fishing trawlers in the South Pacific near South America. I mean, here's my problem, Darcy. It costs millions of dollars to train one astronaut. They only choose the best of the top 1%. We're not dealing with dummies here who work on paranormal radio, or work in the car business, or work at the gas station or the local construction site. We're dealing with highly intelligent people who are at the top of their game and their grades throughout life. They've always been winners. They've always strived and achieved over what most people can. And that's why NASA has spent millions upon each astronaut, even if they don't get the call to space. Now, for NASA to all of a sudden shoot down what their own astronauts are saying or trying to explain is preposterous.
Yeah,
It doesn't make sense.
I mean, Jim Oberg, I'm very familiar with. I'm pretty sure he's seen every film I've made, and even on my recent interviews, you can look those up on YouTube, and he's in the comments going to town. I respect his energy and his fervor to debunking. Um, Not everything is going to be a UFO. There definitely is such a thing as space ice that um, illuminates in certain conditions when it's floating in space, when the sun catches it, but not like the UFO videos that I tend to include in this series and these documentaries don't seem to look like space ice because they seem to move intelligently and make sharp right angle turns and such. So um, yeah, I mean, I think he's going to have a de facto answer, like you're looking at fishing trawlers and stuff like that, because that's his job. His job is to be a debunker and a skeptic. Um, and that's fine. I think he's doing a great job. I just don't think he knows exactly what he's talking about every single time he debunks something. Uh, Philip J. Klass, who was a famous debunker, the editor of, I think, what was it, Aviation Magazine or something like that, um, he said that pilots and, well, military and commercial pilots are not, uh, they're, they are trained observers, but they're not, they can make mistakes, and they can also can get confused about things that they see. So he basically said that you can't trust a trained observer, and that was his job. Philip J. Klass, Kathleen Marden and Stanton Friedman wrote a book about how they found that Philip J. Klass was being funded by the CIA. He was actually being paid to go after certain cases and to attack certain people in the public, and he was their lapdog, I think. So I think when you look at NASA astronauts, they are the best of the best when it comes to trained observers in flight. You know, we're talking about aerospace trained observers. And let's not forget that NASA was equipping these folks with incredibly expensive cameras, film cameras, both still the Hasselblad camera, which is their SLR that they were shooting still images with. And they were tasked with taking as much photography, both motion picture and still, as they could in space, because we are we learn through observation. We're a very visual species, and they're the only guys up there. Capcom is just listening to them chatter and communicating with them. So you need to have guys up there that are trained observers that are taking videos and taking film and taking still images. And when an astronaut says that they see a checkmark object moving in a certain way, you know, I'm sure if it's a fishing trawler down in the ocean, it's going to look like it's moving very, very, very slow. Because you're so far high above it, plus you're moving at thousands and thousands of miles per hour. Like, people don't realize when they're floating in these capsules, or they're floating in the ISS, or they're in the STS missions, the space shuttle missions, they're moving at like 14,000 miles per hour over the Earth. And, for them to see something moving with them up there, to either being, moving alongside them, or to be moving around them, or to be making maneuvers that they can't even make, that's notable. That's got to be something that you should probably look and listen to. So, yeah, I think astronauts are definitely credible observers, and yeah, you'll see that in multiple instances throughout this history of UFOs.
Darcy Weir is our guest. He has a brand new documentary out called Secret Space UFOs, NASA's First Missions. Our first astronauts saw UFOs. Let's go back to the X-15 here for a second. So for people who don't know what the X-15 is, this was basically a rocket that had a pilot, and that was it. It was painted black. It had to be launched from a B-52 bomber, and that was strategically placed at Area 51 or Edwards Air Force Base in order to test this rocket out. It had one pilot. It flew it around between Mach 6 and Mach 7. It topped out at over 314,000 feet above Earth. And the interesting part about it was the pilot was complaining on radio, and you've got the clips of this documentary, that there was something flying beside him. And I mean, imagine being 314,000 feet above the Earth with nothing but a rocket strapped behind you, going at speeds that were inhumane at that time. And now there's something creeping up behind you like a horror movie. Darcy, this was incredible footage that you have in this documentary.
Yeah, I mean, the very first case of a NASA astronaut flying on the X-15 mission was Robert White and Major Robert White reported something he thought at first might have been uh, some kind of condensation or flaking off from his craft, um, something that had maybe come off because he was flying at just under 4,000 miles per hour. I think it was around Mach 6, and it's the highest any human being has ever flown at this point. They're uh, out of the atmosphere. They're at apogee, so weightless, kind of like with Virgin Galactic. What Richard Branson has been doing has been launching this rocket-powered craft off the wing of another craft that flies really high in the atmosphere. That's exactly what they were doing since 1960, 1961 with the X-15 missions. So it's old hat, it's old technology. But essentially, Robert White, radioed back to NASA, said there's something up here. There absolutely is. And when Life magazine interviewed him later on, he said he couldn't really make out the size. It could have been about 5 feet across. It could have been larger, but it was actually right beside his craft. It looked like a big sort of white object. And we have heard of disc-shaped craft emanating sort of a white light, like kind of like a white aura when they're flying. So, I mean, it could have been a disc. Later on, Joseph Walker, another NASA test pilot that was on the X-15 missions, he said that NASA had tasked him with actually taking photos and any data if he saw these objects again. And we actually show a document where he described about 4 or 5 disc-shaped, and one of them might have even been a cigar-shaped craft that were above him when he was at apogee, when he was, just outside the atmosphere. So that, I mean, imagine being a pilot and seeing not just one object, but 4 or 5. You really feel quickly like you're outnumbered, right? So that would have been a bit startling. And it would aggravate a lot of people when they see the amount of effort that went into civilian researchers asking NASA for that footage, asking NASA for those pictures after the fact. And we have those letters, which you read in the documentary. And it started with Mr. Deal, and then it went to Barry Greenwood, and the trail ends pretty much in the late 1980s. In like 1989 was the final letter. And this all came out of the CIA document release of January 2021. So, and with NASA to say at the end of the day, you don't have the need to know to have this documentation, to have these images, that's just a slap in the face to the public. So what are they doing now? Why are they interested in UFOs all of a sudden? And researching it when they're not even interested in sharing this information in their early days.
I hear you there, my friend. Darcy Weir, hold on for a couple of moments here as we're going to go to break here at the top of the hour. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by Brandon Thomas, who is also a part of this documentary, which is called Secret Space UFOs, NASA's first missions. Our first astronauts saw UFOs. If you're not sensing the cover-up out of NASA, I don't know what more we could do. You should be offended by this if you pay attention. Spaced Out Radio, Hour 2 next. All right, we are clear. Chad K., you keep asking for proof in the chat room. Watch Darcy's documentary. There's plenty of NASA footage on there, which is proof. Okay.
Lots of documents too.
And lots of documents as well. So, I mean, if you want proof, go watch the documentary. Hi, Hot Molly. How you doing? Good to have you here. All right. Brandon, how you doing, buddy?
Hey man, I'm doing well. Apologies, guys. I just got off a 2.5 hour thing. Apologies. It's good to see everybody.
That's okay.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Brando.
How are you? Big fan, Dave.
Well,
love your show, man.
Thank you so much. You guys chat away. I'm just gonna take a quick break here, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys.
Yes, sir.
Hey, buddy,
Darcy,
looking
good to
good.
see ya. Man, yeah, are you doing well?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Cool.
Tired.
Heard
Long
that,
day.
man, right? But in like the best way. It's like the fulfilling tired. It's not tired from like sitting in a cubicle, or something. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just it's a fulfilling tired. It's like, oh man, we're doing this thing, kind of thing. So it's really cool. Feels good. Well, it's good to see you, bud. You're looking great.
Thanks, you too, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Got that long hair.
I know, man. The wife likes it, and that's the only reason. I have no preference, so the wife likes it, so I just go for it, right? And so it's one of those things. It's like I prefer the toilet paper to flap outside instead of inside against the wall, and she has no preference for it one way or another, so we just go with the flap. So it's the same kind of deal. Like, I don't really care, short hair, long hair, whatever. I kind of like it. She met me this way, so we keep it long, and that's fine. That's whatever.
Great compromise. Awesome.
Yeah.
Glad that.
It's what it is.
There.
It's
the love
I'm not willing to die on that hill, so why not?
Were you just doing a show?
Yeah, I was on this Hidden Gateway. It'll be out in a couple weeks. There's like this panel discussion, and man, we went deep on it. It was really, really cool. Me and 3 other fellows. It was like a boys' night hang or whatever, and it was supposed to be like an hour and turn into this 2.5 hour full energy, like very interesting chat, man. So yeah, it's good, but it's like one of those things. And I already had like a super crazy productive, awesome day, and then that, and then this, and so I'm just like, all right, cool, you got this. You know what I mean? But it's all awesome. Like I said, it's all great. It's just like you, and just yeah.
Squeeze out a bit more energy, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's fun. You know me. I'm a professional. I'm here. But yeah. Dragon, I have them. This chat is busting, man. You guys are killing it in this thing.
Is it? Let me jump.
Yeah, they're just crushing it. There's a comments and then a private chat. And the comments, they're just oh, can we cuss on this thing? I'll put the filter on. It's all good.
Maybe
very
not.
Cool.
I don't know. I try not to. He gets mad at me when I've swore in the past.
What did you say?
The F-bomb, maybe drop some S's in there.
No cursing on air. Thank you, Big Texas. Hey, what part of Texas? I'm in Texas. What part of Texas? I'm in Millsap. Do you know where that is, Big Texas? Millsap, Texas. Population 600 people. The cows outnumber us out here. Only in breaks. Thank you, Jeff, for the brevity. That's breathing room. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, what is it? Okay, so I'm sure the swear jar has gone up as well. Excellent point there, Sheila. That the swear jar, like the tooth fairy, right? Has there been inflation? Has inflation hit the swear jar?
You can swear on break, so we are on break. Oh yeah, it's when we're on live radio, and so we're on commercial break right now from radio.
Yes. So ranch in Grayford, dude, Big Texas. We got our goats in Grayford. My wife and I live in Millsap. We have a 12-acre piece of property. This dude lives if he's got a ranch in Grayford, that's like an hour from here, which in Texas is nothing.
You guys should have a hoedown.
Dude, I know, right?
What about Hootenanny?
Room, got it. Thank you. Austin, Texas. What's up? I was out there. I'll be out there this weekend for my brother's wedding. This is fun. I could just do this. Like, we should just do this. Talk to people like this. This is fun.
Yeah. Big Texas.
Keep Austin weird for sure. I used to be a touring musician for like a long time, and I played South by Southwest down there, Asimov, that big festival. We did it 2 years in a row. It was fun. It was really, really cool.
I've never been to South by Southwest, but I heard it's awesome, and the film festival is really good there too.
Dude, it's intense. And Austin, about 15 years ago, man, we used to go to this thing called Eeyore's birthday, and it's just crazy. And then they Willie Nelson's birthday, and it's wild. It used to be a really crazy place.
Cool.
Dave, weren't we
All right,
talking about how
boys.
cool that hat is, dude?
Thanks, buddy.
That thing
That's
is
his
awesome.
That's his Boston Terrier, buddy.
I love it. I love
Like-
Boston Terriers, by the way. We haven't had one yet, but the wife and I,
Oh wait,
that's on our list.
that's Marvin the Martian. That's not the Boston Terrier guy. I wasn't looking.
Yeah, I was thinking Marvin, but the
Yeah.
X's kind of throw it off, which is cool.
He switched
you
the
add those?
hats up. Yeah.
I know I bought it like this.
And it had the X's on it. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did
Hey,
that.
give me 2 seconds, guys. Hello to Tracy Scott. Good morning in the UK. Rono thank you for joining us. And who else has joined us late here that I can see? Oh, hey, Clam. How you doing? And Jessica S., good to see you. Diesel Girl, thanks for coming on in. TMI, thanks for joining us. Thank you to the Super Chatters, Smithy, Enki, and Carlito. Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And here we go, everyone.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Kakadrosis. Kakadrosis is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Sharky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Darcy Weir. He is the director of a brand new documentary called Secret Space UFOs, NASA's first missions. Our first astronauts saw UFOs. And also part of this documentary, joining us now is Brandon Thomas. And Brandon, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I mean, Brandon, let's get to the facts right off the bat. We call them UFOs, but we're not very sure on whether or not it's alien or it's not. There really is no proof of that. Now, those who are experiencers will definitely say this is not of any type of earthly technology that we are seeing. But knowing that NASA, on almost every launch they have recorded anomalous objects following them, there has to be a pattern here.
I absolutely agree with everything that you just said. Very insightful, Dave. Huge fan, by the way. Darcy, good to see you, man. Love this. So, yes, I mean, let's talk about it. So, really, the UFO question and the UFO phenomena kind of, at a level, depends on your ability to perceive reality. So, what I mean by this is let's say that your ability to perceive reality extends to that we, live in this place and that there are planets out there, and that's where they're coming from, and they're physically constructing them somewhere and then bringing them here, then yes, that is a methodology. Then, if you can set aside the way that we look at physics and say, okay, well, why would they traverse those distances and come here if it's so far away and science is telling us that it's this many light years away, but we can only travel this far and we can't even do it yet. So, we look at it through our lens. If we're able to, again, to kind of bend our reality a little bit, it kind of shifts your worldview. You step back and you say, okay, well, possibly it's not hard for them. And that's a very simple answer to that, but maybe that's what it is. Now, maybe there is no them. Maybe it is all our craft at some level. And NASA's just sort of up there hiding the fact that it is something ultra secret, perhaps some sort of breakaway civilization technology, which is a lot of fun to talk about. But maybe it's something on a big scale, kind of like maybe why they didn't tell us what was going on the moon. So, it seems to be that there's obvious cover-ups happening from NASA. But what's really interesting is that they kind of only point you to more questions, which is what we talk about. Really, it's just your intuitive gut on, like, where does the question of why would they be faking what they're doing lead me to, and whatever the answer is, that's kind of where you go with it. It's guided by your discernment of life at the point that you're at now. And it's an interesting ride. But when you're presented with information like what's in this awesome doc, and Darcy, you killed it on this. I've said this, but man, watching you grow as a filmmaker has been amazing. I love all of your movies, and so to watch you, kind of like my show, Expanding Reality, check it out, expandingrealitypodcast.com. That's my selfless plug. Kind of like watching that, you grow from a certain level and you learn and you experience and all of that. But this film, man, the way it's articulated in here, absolutely perfect. So you really brought it out, and it's just an honor, honestly, to be hanging out with you guys. But damn, man, to be in that film with you, that was wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Likewise.
Well, I think, gentlemen, that we have to take a look at the seriousness of this from a publicity level. And Darcy, I want to go with you. Why should the public be very concerned that NASA is, as I will put it, lying to the public regarding what they know on this subject? We've seen them over the last 6 months since Bill Nelson stepped to the podium treat us like we're stupid. And they've treated this subject with a lot of ignorance towards the public. And to me, that doesn't make much sense as to why they would do that. I mean, should the public be concerned over these, I'm going to call them lies, that NASA is spewing right now?
Well, yeah, I think the public should be concerned about any information that comes out of NASA about UFOs, because they haven't been honest since the onset of their research in aerospace, in outer space. And it's unfortunate. You look at Brandon and I also have a friend, Robbie Graham, who wrote, is it Silver Screen UFOs?
Yeah, silver screen saucers. Yeah,
Saucers,
Robbie Graham.
that's it.
Yeah,
Robbie
amazing.
Graham, right?
Mhm.
And when we spoke to Robbie Graham, he said, in finding out how Steve Spielberg, was trying to get support from the military and research agencies to help complete his film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, he reached out to the military in the United States, the Department of Defense, and they said, well, we've already closed the book on this phenomenon. There's nothing to it, and we found out everything we needed to find out during Project Blue Book. So that's our stance, and you won't get any funding or equipment lent to the production of your film from us. NASA wrote a very, very long response. I think it was something like 8 pages or something like that. And they tried to persuade Steven Spielberg from even making Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because they were worried about the PR and the psychological fallout that would come from the mainstream, come from the public, if they actually believed that there was such a thing as UFOs. Um, consider us gullible, I guess, and NASA, just the fact that they were so against Steven Spielberg producing that film, it's and this is back in the 1970s. NASA's been around at this point for a very long time. It's just proof in the pudding that they are all about information control. They don't want the public to know the truth about the UFO subject, and they don't want to deal with it. But all of a sudden, here we are in 2022, and in 2021, Bill Nelson is saying, yep, I believe in UFOs. I've spoken to the pilots from, the Navy pilots that were chasing these UFOs. There's something there. We're not alone in the universe. He's alluding to all these things. And then somebody like myself, who's a independent researcher, are reaching out to NASA over the past few years, and their PR agency is saying, their PR person is saying, you can't have an interview with Bill Nelson, and our official response to UFOs you can find on our website. And that's just, and then in the past 2 weeks they announced that they actually have their own research project, their own team of researchers looking into UFOs. Like, it's ridiculous. What are they doing? Why are they interested all of a sudden in UFOs when, you watch this documentary and you look at the documentation, you look at uh, the requests from the public for NASA to release their information on certain missions that they were involved with, that had UFO reports from the pilots. They want nothing to do with it, and they're telling the public, you don't have the need to know. So people should be cautious about what NASA is actually doing in this research field and what their actual end game is.
No, I fully agree with you. I mean, this subject has been very, very difficult because for those of us who are experiencers, we already know that we're not getting the truth. Okay. And the number one agency in the world when it comes to space who does have answers, all they have to do, Brandon, is open up their closet. They don't need to spend $100,000 of their budget to go over and start talking about UFOs. And that this is some sort of shock to them. All they have to do is go back in their own records, open up a couple of filing cabinets, open up the closets, talk to your own astronauts. I mean, to me, it is absolutely ludicrous that NASA and Bill Nelson especially would play us like fools. And I can't reiterate that enough.
What it seems to be is just a clear-cut case of perception management. And with that comes the reason, why, right? And we could speculate that splinters off into many other things. But what I visualize whenever I see how NASA or government officials or anything else handle the UFO phenomena in particular is that it seems like helicopter parents, but instead it's like black helicopter parents, right? Because they're creepy and mysterious in the government and secret. So it seems like they kind of go, okay, there's a big secret out there. Oh God, I really don't think that we should tell them yet. Like they're going to get hurt. They're going to find out, and they may not love us as much anymore. And we just can't do that. They might find out we're not all powerful and know everything and all of that. And so we just can't tell them. And so they hide it from you constantly. And it's like the parents that put a helmet on their kids to go outside until they're, 20 or something like that. It's like, dude, just let them, if natural progression occurred with the way that phenomena is presenting itself to us, in my opinion, is just what I think, then perhaps it would have been done already. It would have been a natural flow. But it seems that there's been this stifled, natural progression against natural laws. Experiencers would tell you they want to come forward. They want to be known, but they have to do it at this grassroots level due to the perception management that all of the systems in place that from their perception we voted in and we chose to be our elected officials and our voice from their perspective. So they honor that. This is why you don't get massive interference. If we want some to change, then maybe we change the people who they think represent us and are the voices for us. But until then, it's going to occur on this grassroots sort of level. You're not going to get answers there from NASA. What you are going to get is choice points. So you're led to footage that's very mysterious. You're led to options of maybe this place and you and everything isn't what they've been telling you, down to the craziest levels you want to take it, man. My show's called Expanding Reality. We talk about really out there stuff. So again, back to this idea of that it's just quantifying their ability to handle the way that you interface with this experience. Now, what they can't account for are the experiencers. You guys are the wild cards. This is where the rubber meets the road with this stuff. And this is where it gets really interesting, because then it's all subjective at that point. And how deep the subjectivity of the contact phenomena goes is really amazing. And that's where, you're glad that you saw a film like Secret Space UFOs, the first missions, and you go, you know what, there were some things in there I was kind of iffy on, but then it's going to point me in a direction. It's going to make me ask questions. And then that's going to lead me to this podcast. That's going to lead me to this author. And now you're in it. Now you're getting a lot of different perspectives. And that's a wonderful way to grow through the perception management because you seek it on your own. It's out there.
Very true. Very true. But how does this, Brandon, in for you, affect the UFO story? How does this change the entire narrative of what we are seeing and hearing and believing for that point? Because I don't know about you guys, but when I see all of these so-called UFO activists going on Twitter, basically cheering on NASA on Twitter, saying, "Great job, guys. This is amazing. This is fantastic. You guys are doing wonderful. Welcome to the game." I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little pissed off about it. I am. And maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I shouldn't be taking it personally at all. Okay? But it's hard not to when it's so bloody obvious to anybody who takes, 5 seconds of actual paying attention to this subject and trying to figure out where we're supposed to go with this. And the unfortunate part about it is we have a mainstream media that doesn't give two craps about this subject at all, and they're not even asking the questions. And as I stated to a friend of mine earlier today, imagine the hype from the mainstream media, gentlemen, and audience alike, if by chance, going back to the 60s, that every astronaut came back with a disease like cancer. What would the media take beyond that? If every astronaut came back with cancer, they would be all over it, pushing it, saying, why are we putting people in space to get sick if we can't combat this after spending millions upon millions of dollars on training these individuals? The media would eat it up because they know what cancer is. They know what cancer can do to affect everybody in their everyday lives, because I don't think there's a person on this planet that at one time or another hasn't been affected by cancer. But if you change that to UFOs, Darcy, they don't care. They don't care at all about the millions that are being spent, wasted, for knowledge that they already have and have recorded, like you have promoted in this new documentary.
I feel NASA, if they are going to do this the right way and vindicate these Twitter cheerleaders that are UFO activists of some sort, um, I think if they're going to do it right, they should come out and say, our previous stance and our previous administration was not for disclosure, was not for revealing this information to the public. And therefore, much of it had been classified. We had to follow suit with other intelligence and defense agencies' protocols in classifying this information. So we did our jobs. If they did something like that, then that would be very cool, in my opinion. But something tells me they won't admit to that, because that would also mean that, these defense and military agencies would have to do the same thing at one point. But what I think they'll probably do is they will have this research group go through a bunch of cases, whether that's old or new, and they might just, push a narrative. I don't know what that narrative will be. Will it be space invaders are evil, or will it be us against the Chinese and the Russians, or will it be, you know, it's just prosaic objects, Project Blue Book part 2. I don't know. I hope it doesn't go that way. But I feel like we're living in this is the information age, right? Like the fact that we have civilians that are able to delve into research like they never could before due to the internet, Google, online data being very accessible and so on. We're lucky to be living in this age. So the public is more informed than ever. So I really just hope that if NASA is going to be pursuing this truth, that there's something out there that's hard to explain, UFOs, UAPs, that they just don't treat us like children and they really pony up the best information possible.
Do you think that's even possible at this time, Darcy?
I don't know. Let's see what they do. I mean, I hope they do, but something tells me, just based off of other UFO reports and releases that have happened in the past since 2017, it really hasn't led to any groundbreaking material, like 100,000 memes you can see online. The government's admitting that there are UFOs and no one cares. This could be all a big psyop. I don't know.
A big psyop. I mean, do you believe that's what it is, Brandon?
Ooh, now we're talking. Thank you, Darcy, for that toss over. Dave, beautiful. I also want to say something that you said earlier about the NASA comments and things like that. 80% of those, there's a shockingly odd number of those are absolute bots, and they're not even real. It's all propaganda, and that's a definite psyop, my friend. So don't, maybe take your disappointment from the 100 that it was at, maybe down to 20, since we know that 80% of that was probably bots. So we could feel better about the support that NASA's actually got, right? Because never forget, there's a reason that so many of us say that it stands for never a straight answer, right? So, I think that this fake alien invasion kind of is interesting. And so when we talk about this PSYOP type of a thing, I think Project Bluebeam, of course, Sergei Manas's work, absolutely fascinating. It's one of my favorite conspiracies of all time. It's just so much fun to think about, just conceptually, to dance around with it. And one of the things, that I think about this is that that's another great way to perception manage. And especially when we see it pop up in media. Now, another thing to note here is every time you see the media talking about it, who are they interviewing? They're not interviewing one of us. They're interviewing a general or a commander or something militarily associated. So they're always framing this in the military light. There's been no sort of peace talks kind of presentation on maybe what we want to say about this on our behalf, instead of like, is this a threat, which I understand is an honest assessment. I'm saying it's unfairly balanced. The conversation is tipped in the direction of threat, military. And so when you see it in the news and you see it presented like that, again, I'm thinking, okay, well, they're pointing all of our energy and focus having to do with this subject on a mass level in this direction. And then whenever you see that, you're kind of primed as a society to then light the powder keg of something like a Project Bluebeam. And then now you have this perhaps reverse technology that they've been testing out a lot lately, which is really interesting. Another fun thing to think about the flap could be the whole, like, something cool and amazing is going on. Like, maybe the government is about to, I think the ultimate cool thing, and I'm just going to call it right here as I think about it. Project Bluebeam rolls out, right? It's awesome. Okay, it's a lot of fireworks. They did a really good job. We spent a lot of money on it because it's taxpayer money, right? And so it rolls out, but the real aliens come down and kind of shut it down, right? And then we get like it's like a double feature. I think that would be the coolest way to do disclosure, is because then you call BS on the whole deal, because then you know that the gaslighting that we've all been experiencing, you're validated in that, which we already are. Like, we know it, guys. It's okay. But again, when you see it pop up in media and stuff like that, this would be a cool way to vindicate it, man. It'd be fun.
All right. We got another half hour left with Darcy Weir and Brandon Thomas. Secret space UFOs, NASA's first missions. Our first astronauts saw UFOs. If you need convincing there's a cover-up, watch this documentary. We'll be back on Spaced Out Radio right after this. I'm so fired up. I can't even get the words out of my mouth tonight.
Dude, right? Dave, this is a blast, brother. I got to have you over on my show, man.
Sure, man. Just let me know.
Yeah,
Let me
it'd be fun.
know. You know? I mean,
Yeah,
my beard
here, I'll
isn't as nice as Darcy's, but I mean,
Your beard is better.
Well, you know, it's everybody's got their own style. You know what I mean? Everybody's got their own thing, and it's okay. It's all beautiful. I love it. You handsome man in your beards. I go a little thinner. You know, I'm in Texas, so you kind of facial hair for the environment. And when we hit 120 for like 2 weeks straight, I don't want to look anything like you guys. You know, I actually trim this way the hell down. So yeah, it's uncomfortable. So you can kind of, maybe that's a thing that you can tell kind of the climate of an environment in which a person lives due to their facial hair. You know, they thicken it up.
That's very true.
Perhaps.
That's true. I had a lighter beard when I was living in Mexico.
There you go.
Now I'm back north of the border.
Oh, how are you liking it
Cold.
up there?
Cold, but it's good.
You're not even close to cold down there. You're in t-shirt weather compared to where I am.
I'm in t-shirt and shorts right now, man. I feel great. It's 70. I got the
I'm
window
saying
open.
Darcy. I'm saying Darcy.
What's the temperature in 100 Mile House?
Hold on. Let's just go to the old phone here. We'll give you the weather update right now. Let's see here. Right now it is minus 11 Celsius with a cold of minus 12 tonight, and a high during the day. Oh, it's supposed to get down to minus 18 tonight. Sorry. With a high of minus 7. The other day it was minus 22, feeling like minus 30. So that minus 22 is about minus 3 Fahrenheit.
Pass.
You're freezing your nards up off there, bud.
No, thank you. I mean, I'm telling you, I live in Texas for a reason. I'm not built for that stuff, you know. I mean, we do get winters. We had that snow, whatever snow vid is what we all called it because it was crazy and wild. But it like took out the power and did all this crazy stuff, and that was wild and it sucked. You know what's crazy about Texas is when we do get stuff like that because we're still on the part of the Great Plains, so everything funnels through this thing like crazy. So we get crazy stuff, but we don't have the infrastructure to handle it. So everything goes nuts. Like we don't have heated bridges and all these salt trucks and plows and stuff like that. Everything just stops. That means like getting food, gas. If your power shuts off, you ride it out. So this is the one thing is yes, it does happen. It doesn't happen as severe and as often as y'all, of course. But when it does happen here, we are not ready for it at all, even though we know the possibility exists. There's no preparation for it.
You guys had like roofs caving in from a little snow, didn't you?
Oh, well, again, we don't have the infrastructure for it at all. Like at all.
No,
you just can't.
No.
So that's why it's so difficult. And what's interesting too is the type of cold here, because we're on the northern part of Texas and the Great Plains and the winds. People from Alaska have moved here and made videos on our behalf and said, hey, actually, this is a crazy different kind of cold. I'm from Alaska and this is just different.
What is this filth nasty guy painting here?
Dirty filth? Let's take a look
I love
here.
This, by the way. What an awesome idea.
Let's take a look. Filth, what do you got going over here tonight?
Well, it's almost done. It's an astronaut on the moon, and there's a reptilian, and he's saying, "You will be asked once," and the caption is, "And we never returned."
Hey,
I got to get with you on a t-shirt. I got to get with you on a t-shirt design, Bubba. Email me. I threw my email in the private chat, Dave and everybody. Dude, this is awesome. What a cool idea this is. I mean, first of all, this is awesome. I would just watch this while listening to other things anyway. But to offer this to your viewership and to your audience as an option instead of staring at people talking, like I think this is one of the most brilliant things.
Yeah,
in every way.
You know how much, believe it or not, I 100% agree with you. But right over the first couple of months we did it, I took so much harassment from people saying, "What's this dude doing? Why do we have to watch this guy paint cartoons and all this?" And I'm like, they're like, it's taking away our thought process and all this. And I'm just like, you know what? No, Filth has been with me as a fan for a number of years, and he's an amazing cartoonist, and it just adds another parallel to the show that nobody else is doing. Hey, guys, we got about just a few seconds here. Thank you to Smithy, Anki, Carlito, Pam, Laura, Scrub-a-Dub-Dub, Cat Chaser, Flash Forward, and Molly for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. Everyone, Darcy will be with us in Las Vegas, May 19th to 21st. 2023 at the Golden Nugget for the Spaced Out Radio fan party. You are all invited. You're all invited. We want to see you all there. So come on out. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate you. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Sharky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. From the documentary UFOs, Secret Space UFOs, NASA's first mission, our first astronaut saw UFOs. We have Darcy Weir, and taking part in that documentary, Brandon Thomas. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate you guys being here tonight.
Pleasure.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it too. And Paulo 11, great super chat, great question. I totally believe Gary McKinnon's story. I don't think he had a reason to lie. In this documentary, you know, we pose the idea that pictures have been doctored. You know, if NASA hadn't said that they lost or destroyed much of the footage, film footage, and still images from the Apollo moon missions, as well as the pre-Apollo missions, that's enough insult for injury. But on top of that, for them to, you know, get their servers hacked, and you've got whistleblowers like Donna Hare who's saying, I witnessed firsthand NASA workers doctoring pictures and scrubbing out UFOs and such. You know, Donna Hare's story is what really turned Gary McKinnon's OCD into overdrive and made him want to hack the JPL servers. And I'm pretty sure that's who he ended up hacking, was Jet Propulsion Lounge's servers. I spoke to Gary. The very first sort of foray into secret space documentary making, I made a documentary back in 2017 called Beyond the Spectrum. And I featured the Gary McKinnon story in there, and Gary said I could do it. You know, I think that if there was nothing that he did wrong, and if he didn't have some kind of truth to what he actually saw once he hacked on to the JPL servers, which apparently was flight manifest lists of off-world personnel that were flying with humans, and he also saw UFOs in space, images that he was slowly bringing up on the screen when he got onto the server. That was, you know, these images were apparently being saved in a proprietary format that NASA had stored there. Something unlike a JPEG or a bitmap or something that you would have had back in that day. I think there's credibility to this story, and I think the United States wouldn't have been trying to extradite him for many, many years, to, basically treat him like a war criminal, send him to Guantanamo Bay. If it weren't for the fact that he had a disability, um, that's probably what pretty much saved his life. And Theresa May, when she was prime minister in the UK, she officially announced that Gary McKinnon was, you know, off the table for being extradited to the United States because of his disability, and she thought that he had served enough time, and he's in the clear now, but he can't ever hack or do anything like that again. And I think he's been a good boy since. So really interesting story. I think there's something there, and I think in terms of a secret space program, that's one of the more interesting stories.
There's a lot of stories that seem to follow NASA all around, gentlemen. And Brandon, I'm curious to get your opinion in regards to this. When you watch this documentary of Darcy's and you literally hear the astronauts freaking out on audio. This is NASA audio. This isn't something that's been replicated or anything, but you hear them and you hear ground control in Houston telling them to go to the emergency channel. This has to go over the emergency channel over and over again. I mean, we forget that these astronauts are human beings, first and foremost. They have emotions, they have feelings. They probably get scared. As brave as they are, especially back in the day when rocket technology was still in its infancy. I mean, that was a scary job, knowing that you could blow up at any time. It didn't matter where. The chances of you coming home were very high. And now you have to deal with anomalous objects in the sky, whether you're walking on the moon or whether you are just taking a ride around on the space shuttle or whatever. I mean, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't feel very confident in my bosses if they were treating me the way it seems NASA has treated a lot of their astronauts with their NDAs.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you work for a mining company and you go in there and they know there's a Bigfoot in there and he scares you every time you're like, oh my God, what are you doing? And only a few people have seen it. Some people are like, no, that's not real. But it's like that. It's that equivalent of your boss knowing, because NASA would know, right? I mean, they've sent so many probes, satellites. We've been observing. There's been contact. There's been all sorts of alleged contact between the military, government officials, and extra somethings, non-human intelligences, whatever they are. And so what's interesting is whenever NASA presents information like this, and then the question is if they scrub out so many things, why was that left in? And to me, I look at this reality through many lenses, and none of them I'm married to, which is great. It affords me the opportunity to have really cool conversations. But one of those lenses would be that perhaps it was left in on purpose as a clue, as a question mark. Now that could splinter you in a few different directions, right? So again, it's perception management from a lens in which I choose to view it. So if you're looking at it this way, then you could say that, okay, well, if they left that in, then there has to be something secret going on. Therefore, maybe this and this and this happened. And then you just speculate wildly. And then perhaps they also have plants in the community that steer a narrative a certain way. And that happens all the time. We know that. Hashtag UFO Twitter. But excuse me, again, Texas, all the allergies, right? We still have allergy season here. So it's just like this interesting thing that whenever you look at it like that, yes, then if they are switching to channels and they're freaked out, they were prepped for this. They probably saw pictures. They probably were told, hey, there's these things, you're going to see them. Just don't freak out. Go easy on it and switch, because some astronauts sound pretty calm, when they're discussing him allegedly on the moon, also in the capsule, especially whenever they're talking about it, some astronauts have a really dramatic reaction, no matter how prepped they are. Sort of like a psychedelic experience, for example, just to throw a wild pitch in here. You can prep all you want, but man, when you're there, it's a whole different ballgame. So perhaps it's something like this. And Dave, you nailed it with this. It's human nature. It's awe. It's so radically different and odd and mysterious and awesome that, yeah, you're going to have the feels, man. You're just going to want to freak out. And you're going to excerpt, you're going to cuss a little bit and you're going to go, oh yeah, the emergency channel. Kind of like when people forget to take their phone out. And you hear this all the time. Oh my gosh, I had this contact. It was amazing. I saw this thing. It was amazing. Forgot to take my phone out. And that has to do with the human nature of being wrapped up in that moment of awe and mystery. And this is also maybe why they reacted rather than switching to an emergency channel. Then you ask yourself, how many had the wherewithal to switch to that channel, and what were those conversations like?
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, when you hear Dr. Edgar Mitchell and other astronauts who walked on the moon saying they were followed, they saw the craft, they saw strange objects up in the sky that they couldn't explain. I mean, we've heard the private conversations. Why has NASA, in your opinion, Darcy, continued to be absolutely mum on this subject? Like their lips are zippered shut. Do you think it's the
I
military
think
industrial complex?
I think it's the military. I think that there's a protocol with classifying information and keeping certain information from the public, and UFOs are above top secret. They're one of these things that are not supposed to be released to the public or talked about, especially by research agencies that hold authority, that hold, public attention, and NASA is one of those. So the fact that they're doing it now is pretty surprising. But in the past, when people were more like sheeple, um, I think they were really just making sure that they didn't frighten or destabilize the economy or destabilize um, the psyche of the group of people that are out there, keeping the economy going, keeping the whole country going in terms of direction. So that's my theory. I think you look at the Executive Order 10501, which Eisenhower established in 1952, and many different research agencies, including NASA, as well as um, military and intelligence agencies widely adopted this executive order to safeguard information from the public. This is a framework which was established in order for people in these different agencies, in order to properly classify information and how to go about doing it, the framework for them to understand what do we do if we need to do this. And then from there, you do have things like, the eventual 1960s Brookings report, Brookings Institution report, where NASA and the Brookings Institution teamed up, and they basically said, look, we've got to be really careful about what we discover and what we release to the public. One of the things that would be really dangerous to release to the public, in terms of, keeping the wheels on the car and getting us to go forward, would probably be nuclear energy, certain types of nuclear rockets. Because I think actually back in that time there was the Dyson project, which was a nuclear powered rocket that they were actually testing out. This is pretty well documented. But the other thing they said in the same report was the interaction or knowledge of extraterrestrial intelligence when we go into space. And, space is more than just 3D, apparently. Space is more than just the dimensions that we see and interact in. And maybe some of these UFOs are coming out of a dimension that's present that we just can't perceive in our plane of existence. Maybe these things are, you know, interdimensionally traveling, and they exist here, but we just usually can't see them or interact with them. So I don't know. I think there's all kinds of possibilities for where and why these UFOs are appearing. Um, but the research agencies, the research institutions that are in the know are keeping this information from us because they have the best and brightest that have been looking at this, probably safeguarding it as well from the public over the years.
Safeguarding is one thing, but when and I know I've said this already a couple of times, but when you bring yourself into the conversation, Brandon, like when Bill Nelson a number of months ago started talking UFOs at the podium, no one asked him to talk about that. NASA never talked to him about that. He went up there and he made the statement. He got NASA involved in the game. Brandon, are you surprised that nobody from the politicians to the media to even, people in the UFO field, prominent people in the UFO field, have yet to call NASA out on why are they all of a sudden doing this? Why are they getting involved?
I kind of picture the top level of where decisions like this are made as some sort of smoke-filled room that we're not privy to what goes on inside of. And there's a lot of people in there that you wouldn't think necessarily, but they're all kind of at the same, let's say, vibration. They're made from the same template, from the same material. You know what I mean? And we know who we're talking about. And they're pervasive. They're everywhere. Now, not to say that all of them are plants and all of that stuff. And perhaps there's some enticing reason why that obvious detachment from narrative that we would like to see, right? That's a desire we all have, especially for folks to just start doing, brave things like standing up and just calling things out publicly to where there has to be, or you would think there's an implied, if we stay on it long enough, a response that we're going to get out of that. Now, it just seems very interesting to me, too, that all the denial happens when if you just look at the military footage that's coming out. I mean, NASA has to know about this stuff. I mean, how many satellites, how many personnel do we have floating around up there? The ISS, for God's sake, like what's going on up there? Andrew Fricker in the comments asked that, and I wanted to shout him out on that. First of all, amazing people in the comments, so keep doing a great job. But ISS, you've got folks floating around up there observing all the time, allegedly, again. But if you've got somebody up there in human personnel, then you would be getting people that are way more used to this type of interaction, which would then be if we've got a consistent amount of people and personnel up there in this no man's land for us, right? It's outside of what we're capable of existing in without the use of technology or something, then perhaps those entities, whatever they are, if they're out there as well, perhaps this is some sort of meeting ground. And then you would think, well, I mean, just like a stray animal or something like that. If you stay consistent and you're there and you're present, maybe feed it a little bit, like throw it a satellite every now and then, maybe they become your friend or something. And perhaps there's a relationship that was formed there. And maybe NASA knows a whole lot more. And maybe there's some sort of like Valerian thing going on where they're building something on the back of the moon or something cool. I mean, we don't know, there's, and I love to speculate wildly about it, but the reason that we don't see something is more of an answer than the reason that we do. You know what I mean?
Can this story be broken by a news agency, by anybody of prominence? Like somebody like Tucker Carlson, and look, I'm not a Tucker Carlson fan. I'll be the first one to say he's got one of those faces that I just want to hit. Okay. But the one thing that I give him credit for is he has yet to refuse to drop the UFO story. He continues it. I don't think he asks a lot of tough questions regarding it, but we got 5 minutes to go here, guys. Could someone like Tucker Carlson break this story open about NASA's UFO cover-up if he was given the proper information for his team to investigate and get the information out there?
100%. I think it would take a mainstream news agency like Fox News to break this sort of story, to say, hey, like NASA's known about this since its inception. They've known about UFOs or UAPs. Why is it that they're taking an interest in saying that they have a research, project that they're starting up now, unless there's some alternative motive, right? So I think it would be amazing if CNN or Tucker called, but they never would. I don't think they would. I think they're just still trying to grasp what's going on. Are UFOs real? I don't think they want to say there's a cover up. That's one of the things that I'm trying to highlight with this documentary, is that there's this cover up and information control coming out of NASA. And with everything that's been going on in the past 5 years, no one's calling it a cover up or a deception. It's just all like UFOs are real. Give us more.
Yeah. And Brandon, your thoughts?
Vaughn Patrick in the comments here nailed it with the proper use of the word cahoots, and I appreciate that. The media is cahoots in on the cover up, and so if you some people would say, now if you go up at a level, you just follow the money. Who owns what? At a level, all the money kind of starts to lean in one direction. All of those interests perhaps have a vested interest in it not coming out. Again, the reason there's silence, it says a lot. And so perhaps it's all the way at the top. And maybe they dance with it just the same way in Robbie Grimm's books. Silver Screen Saucers, thank you. Then it details this perception management of how the UFO subject has been leaked, drip fed to the public. So it's very important that we know about it, but it's important that we don't know that they know about it. And it's very important that we still think that they don't know either. And so that kind of thing is what seems to be going on here, again, from the lack of answers. And what's fascinating about this, if they would just tell us, this would be a lot different. We could quit speculating wildly, and then it would just be the way, right? It seems like the more they add to the silence, the more time we get to come up with super cool things that are probably going on.
See, for me, as we got about 2 minutes to go, gentlemen, it's about ego. It's completely about ego and them being able to shove it right in front of, it's like putting a cookie in front of a starving person. They want to eat the cookie, but they're afraid to. And I see that same thing being right here, right now, with this entire focus. I mean, do you see it as them playing the public for fools right now?
If it's internal, then it seems to be the crabs in a bucket idea, right? Whenever one crab goes for freedom, the other crabs will grab it and bring it down. One news agency maybe comes out and says, "Oh my gosh, I got this video, guys. This is going to break this. This is it." And the other news media is, "We're not ready to do that yet. They got Blue Beam scheduled in like 6 months. We can't do it yet. We have it all processed and ready to go. Just hang on. Just pump the brakes there." Maybe it's something like that. But it does seem to be this sort of collective agreement, this wink, across the tables that they're smoke-filled meetings that they're in that we're not privy to. But again, the silence for me, that breath, that's jazz, right? The space. I mean, there's a lot you can fill in that space with speculation.
Darcy, 30 seconds.
Hey, yeah. So people, please look at this documentary. If you can check it out on Amazon, iTunes, whatever. I'd love your feedback. Follow the breadcrumbs. Look at the data. I don't trust NASA. I think they've known about UFOs for a long time. And I'm going to continue to produce documentaries that show that truth. So thank you for having me. And everybody check out Expanding Reality, Brandon Thomas's podcast. It's amazing. That's how I met him. I actually was on his show many years ago. And he's a friend. I think he's a good guy and a very intelligent man. Same with you, Dave.
Thank you. Everybody go check out new documentary, Secret Space UFOs, NASA's first missions. Our first astronaut saw UFOs. Coming up next, we're going to head to the swamp. Then Super Duke will be here for the Crypted Report. I've got Dave 101. Lots more coming up. Great show, guys.
Outstanding.
Great show.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Dave.
Brandon, get a hold of me, and we'll definitely try and get things going here.
Yeah.
Find a time for you.
Yeah, we're friends on Facebook. I'm actually, I mean, I'm only doing guest spots right now. I'm kind of taking November off, my brother's wedding and all this. But in December,
Nice.
I'm picking back up recording for my show again, and then it'll,
Sure.
kind of track after that. So in that window, man, you and I are on Facebook. So if you'd like to have me on for another one of these, I'm open anytime. For you to come on the show, which I definitely want to do, it'll be like December is when I'm booking again. But I've got you for my first booking spot in December, man, when it comes up.
Yeah, let me know.
That'll be fun.
Let me know.
But you have to do me a favor and bring Dirty Filth with you. Can we do this on the show? I'm dead serious about this. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I love this, by the way. Because then you kind of are inspired to paint and draw and create by what we're talking about. Like, this is so cool. It is one of the most amazing things. I'm like blown away. I want to see if you can like loan him to me for a couple episodes or something. We'll work something out. I'll send you guys a couple pieces.
That part may be tough, but I'll bring Dirty Filth with me.
He's
Gentlemen,
awesome. Thank you.
Have a good night, okay?
Thanks guys.
Thank you.
Much love.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Dirty Filth, this show, we're going to go right to you here, man. And you can explain everything. I'll be right back.
Look at Dave just bailing out, leaving this cartoon guy here. We should get Brandon on the after hours. Well, Big Tex, I'm pretty sure we could probably do that. Oh, yeah, he should have said his channel. Oh, bloody hell. I'll try to remind Dave when he comes back from letting his dog man out. These big drawings take 10,000 years to do all the time. It's always nice. And if it's good on the book, too. Because my book that I did, all the larger drawings, I just filled the whole page all nice and everything. Nonetheless, we're almost done this one here. Look at that, eh? Stupid here. Look at the NASA ship. Can't sue me now, suckers. Little reptilian guy with his orange boots and his sword, because apparently the reptilians like to fight with swords. Flint swords, doing their best Carso Orlog impression. Oh, the Malazan reference, and nobody's gonna get it. Look at him. I'd be soiling myself. I don't even like flying, but actually I'd go to space, but I wouldn't want to meet an angry reptile on the moon. That's a hard path from Dirty Filth for sure. But if I was an astronaut and I came back and they go, Klausenheimer, you're not allowed to talk about what you see on the planet. I go, then I just draw cartoons about it. Then they'd have some man in black show up at my house, and I go, what are you gonna do? And they'd probably just like hit me with a laser beam or something. But it's like I say, someone's got to die by getting broken in half by a Sasquatch, or shredded by a dog man, or getting a fist fight with a man in black, and something to that effect. There's all these cameras in people's houses. There's no way they wouldn't be able to get that footage. Some guy scrapping a man in black, and then he gets abducted. And you're like, oh, look at that. But of course, it'd just be like, when people look at everything else, they'd say, well, that's fake. They go, well, where's Jim? He's not home. He's gone. And then if he gets shredded by a werewolf, or a dogman rather, or broken in half by a Sasquatch, all these guys with their GoPros on, unbelievable. But maybe that's that old, they don't like going near all the technology, and they can, I don't know. We'll have to ask Super Duke about that. He's a little more knowledgeable in that field. Field all questions of Sasquatch to Super Duke. Dave's slinking back in. He's slinking.
Hi, Dirty Filth.
Hi, Dave. How's it going?
I'm a happy guy.
Did you have Taco Bell tonight?
No. But we'll let our listeners know. We can't announce it just yet. But it looks like we are going to be adding another radio station to our format here very, very soon. Very soon. And I'm very excited about that. And we hope to finalize our deal with this radio station in the United States within the next week. And we'll have more information regarding that coming up. And you know what? It's a great job by Terry Hall today in getting that job done. As you know, they are on a mission for getting us a number of radio stations. So today is a big day for Spaced Out Radio, and we are very much looking forward to adding our new radio partner to us and broadcasting in an area that is a mecca of strangeness, so to speak. And that's where we're going. That's where we're going. We're pushing hard. I want to say a big thank you tonight to Apollo, to Molly, Flash Forward, Cat Chaser, Scrub-a-Dub-Dub, Pixie Lara, Pam, Carlito, Enki, and Smithy for the super chats tonight. It very much helps us do what we do on a nightly basis, so thank you so much for your super chats. Also, thank you to everybody who's given us a thumbs up, thumbs down, and here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Cacadrosis. Cacadrosis is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Sharky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again where we head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller takes us on another spooky journey.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. Hello, Swamp Dweller. My name is Garrett, and I'm going to share with you and the people of the swamp the time my good friend Robert and I encountered something very frightening in our local forest. It has been almost 3 years since it occurred, and I still wonder how I'm still alive to tell the tale. Anyway, here it goes. It all started on a fantastic October evening in Texas. My friend Robert and I were wondering how to spend this evening on a Saturday night. So, being the thrill seekers we were, we decided to go on a walk in our local forest and do some urbex exploring since there were some abandoned buildings in that area. I'm not sure of the history behind these buildings, but apparently they were a part of some sort of old settlement from the mid-late 1800s that was mysteriously abandoned in the 1920s. I have tried to ask more about the history from people in our small town, but for some reason they refuse to talk about it. Additionally, they warned all the other teenagers and myself to not go into that forest at night. But of course, being the cocky young teenagers we were, Robert ignored that warning and explored the buildings. We all got our stuff packed in our backpacks, including my newly gifted camcorder. We set out for the forest at about 6:45 p.m. and got there at about 7 o'clock, so the sun was pretty much gone at this point. Once we got there, the parking lot only contained one other vehicle, a Ford Expedition. This seemed a bit odd as it was nightfall, yet there were still some hikers out and about in the park. Not that it was strange for us to be there so late in the day, but I just shrugged it off quickly and started recording on my camera once we began our 30-minute hike to the abandoned buildings. The walk went entirely normal for the most part until we got about 10 minutes away from the settlement. It started with the crickets and other animals going quiet all around us, which I know means a predator is normally nearby. I am somewhat of an avid hunter, so I guess I would know this, as well as listening to horror stories on YouTube. Robert and I were on edge, but we refused to turn back. Instead, we slowed down our pace and minimized the number of times we would use our flashlights, since we did not want to give away our position so easily. Eventually, we made it to our destination with no further interruptions. In front of us, we were greeted by a building that seemed to resemble an old church with what appeared to be tiny houses and maybe a couple of stores surrounding it. Of course, the buildings were so old and ran down that it was honestly hard to tell what they could have been. Strangely enough, the church appeared to be in the middle of the settlement. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but if you see an abandoned town with an old, creepy church, chances are some terrible crap is going to go down. Robert and I agreed that we should probably check the buildings to make sure there are no squatters or anything. We wanted to save the church for last anyway because it was the most uneasy. We spent about 30 to 45 minutes exploring the different buildings with no interest other than some cryptic messages engraved in the wood of the building, which read out like, "We must leave before it's too late, and they always watch." Now, if the town's eerie atmosphere wasn't enough to freak me and Robert out, the creepy silence that seemed to follow us around definitely was enough to make us crap ourselves, especially with the previous settlement history. Could this be connected to the town's abandonment? What were they so afraid of? There were so many questions that needed answers. I had to keep going. After exploring the last building before the church, we took maybe 10 breaths each before entering the church. Upon entering the church, it immediately made us gag with the smell of what I can only describe as pure death. And it seemed to be coming from the room below the building. A basement. That's what I could only assume. A trap door followed by a ladder led down to a secret room. And as we made our way down, that horrible smell seemed to get even more robust. We even had to use our jackets as like makeshift gas masks. Once we all got down, we were met with a vast catacomb-like room with some sort of object in the center, illuminated by a dim candle hanging from a ceiling. Me and Robert were very reluctantly making our way toward the thing with my camera still recording to discover that it was half of a person's bloody body. A female that seemed to be in her mid to late 20s, very possibly a young urban explorer like Robert and myself. We both threw up upon seeing this gruesome sight. It was worth mentioning, too, that while we were down there, we never used our tack lights to see what we were surrounded by, so we both opened up our lights. I almost fainted on sight when we saw that there was maybe 20 horrifying-looking humanoid creatures surrounding us. They were probably no taller than us. They were naked, skinny, with long, thin, and wiry hair coming down from their chests. Their eyes were black as night, and their gaping mouths were dripping with blood. Their fingernails looked like they were overgrown and shaped like steak knives. They resembled the clown from Saw, except without the makeup. The hair was much thinner, and once they all knew we saw them, they all, in unison, gave this deathly shriek, a shriek that I believe could be heard in any nightmare. I didn't even know a living thing on this planet could produce that noise until this very moment. But then Robert yelled at the top of his lungs. "Run!" As we both climbed up the ladder in record time, it was an absolute miracle that not me or Robert got dragged down by those horrific creatures. We made it to the church as fast as we could and slammed the door behind us. With the screaming still being heard, we took a minute to catch our breaths as we discovered, with our lights, probably 50 different eyes coming from all the buildings we had previously explored. Upon seeing this, we bolted out of the entire settlement. I dropped my camera behind me in the process. I know, cliche, but I didn't realize this until many, many minutes. In about 10 to 15 minutes, we made it back to my truck with the Ford Expedition still there. We could now safely recollect and calm down from our horrific experience. We then concluded that the car belonged to the girl killed by those things under the church. It was a miracle that we made it out, but unfortunately she didn't, and my heart goes out to her family. The next day we led police to the location and they found her body right where we saw it. Only this time those creatures were not there. She was eventually identified as 26-year-old woman Chloe Bex. We tried telling the police our story, but they did not buy it, except for one, Sheriff Walker, a 60-year-old native of our small town. During the investigation on the site, he came up to me and Robert and said, "Now you know why we tell you not to go into the forest at night."
That's why we love our swamp dweller around here, taking us on a weird, strange journey each and every night, Monday through Friday, kicking off hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio. Swamp Dweller, if you want to hear thousands of his stories for free, go to youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads and check it on out for yourself. Just do yourself the favor, hit that subscribe button. We don't have much time, but we got the Crypted Report with Super Duke coming up right now with the man, the myth, the legend of World Bigfoot Radio. Yes, we love it when Super Duke is with us, telling us all the spooky stories that he can possibly push our way. How you doing, my friend?
I'm hanging in there. I've been pretty sick the last couple of days. I'm finally starting to get some energy back again, but glad I could be with you tonight. It's been a hectic couple days down here in lower 48. We just had our midterm elections a couple days ago, and that was the same day as the blood moon, and it was the same day as the anniversary of Montana becoming a state, and the same day as the anniversary of my mom dying. So there was a lot going on all there one day. And also the day before that, my channel finally hit 20,000 subscribers. So
nice. We're catching up. We are catching
finally
up.
Got there.
We just passed 19,400 today.
Good gone, buddy.
We're right on your tail. We're right on your tail, man.
Honestly, I should have been there like 3 years ago. All the people that are longtime followers of my channel probably noticed that I froze at 17,000 subs for about 3 years for no particular reason. But recently, they've been allowing me to have subs accumulate again. So it's kind of nice. I actually finally made it to 20,000. Didn't think that would ever happen. Excuse me. And also nearing the 300 video mark. And as you know, I don't do live shows. I do all these pre-recorded type videos, more like documentary style. So it takes a lot longer to produce. And when you cranked out that many of them, it's like hard to even remember all of them anymore. But I like your headgear tonight. That's a common thing down here in Montana, where you have the old fur trappers and stuff will have the coonskin cap. And apparently you captured and skinned a Martian and made a hat out of that. So that's pretty cool.
I did. Thank you. Thank you for noticing. So wear my Marvin the Martian hat here. Duke, we only got you till the bottom of the hour, which is about 11 minutes away. What do you got for us tonight in the story time regarding cryptid creatures, my man?
First thing, observation, now that I've had a second confirmed from a completely different quarter on this, is telling roughly the same story. It sounds like those rake things are experiments that got away. But I'll talk more about that at some other point. Right now, I got a really old report from, again, the founder of cryptozoology, Ivan T. Sanderson, who was talking in the same year I was born, in his book, Abominable Snowman Legend Come to Life, about some of his notes about being around the area of the Himalayas and the gigantic areas to the north and to the east of it, and taking a good look around for some of this stuff. And he reports that there's one rather delightful story about a Hindu pilgrim, which just goes to show what human beings can actually train themselves to be able to do. Colonel Henniker of the British Army was crossing a 17,000-foot pass in Ladakh in 1930 in a blinding snowstorm when he perceived a rather skinny fellow clothed only in a loincloth and using a staff, trampling stolidly Tibetward. Amazed, he hailed the man in English and received the astonishing and cheery reply, "Good morning, sir, and a happy Christmas." It was mid-July. There may, in fact, be all manner of strange types wandering about in these appalling fastnesses, clothed or unclothed, fed or unfed, and everyone minding his own particular business. It takes a great deal of patience and some ingenuity, as well as exceedingly good manners and taste, to get into the local people and be sufficiently accepted by them to hear what they really have to say. And this comes up constantly in hominid research in other parts of the world. The locals don't want to talk about it because they're afraid they're going to be ridiculed. And we of the West attempt to adopt a lordly attitude to everybody else, and often in our own ignorance give away by gesture alone, if nothing else. We are mocking anything that we don't understand. And the Himalayans are very wise and perspicacious people. But for all their wonderful qualities, it's not to the Sherpas and other Nepalese, nor to the people of the Himalayas as a whole, that we have to turn for some real pragmatic information about hominids there. Rather, we should go to the Tibetans proper. Their whole attitude is utterly different. They appear to have the whole thing down. Don't bother to argue the details. To them, there are three kinds of these creatures, called, as I already have names. They're not much interested in Telemat, which they to dwell in lower regions, of which there are none in their exalted land. Mette they know and treat as just another thing indigenous to the land, but the hulking Zute they take a really peeved notion. They say this vast creature is hard to handle and raids yak herds, and that they go in groups and they can get along in appalling climatic conditions and have all the ingenuity of humans plus strength, which one is really almost unable to cope. That is why they also say they keep the skins of those their compatriots slay, or mummify their bodies and put them away, but not so much out of respect as simply as hereditary awful warnings to other men. Real Tibetans have spoken of all of this to both Nepalese and to many foreigners in Nepal, and one much respected Lama Punyabara even offered to bring back one of each of three kinds alive if the government would put up the money. My permissible comment is herewith terminated, but perhaps I can afford to extend myself a little and make a few more general comments at this point. With all the above, how is it possible for anyone to state flatly that there is nothing in the Himalayan region to be investigated? This I personally and simply cannot see. There have been, over the years, those who have endeavored to prove or tried by disproving or showing up one facet of the matter to show that all the rest is either myth, legend, or folklore. But when you take each of these individual complaints, you find that none of them jibes with all the others, while each of them in turn itself proves not to hold water. The ever recurrent notion, for instance, that the tracks are made by local people wearing a particular type of loose footgear resembling a mukluk or moccasin, and which was recently again brought forward by one Michael Peisel in Argosy magazine, this in December 1960. Obviously both absurd and impossible, if only the advocates would just spend a few moments thinking logically about the matter. If this Mr. Peisel had considered the following facts for a moment, he would not have written as he did. If these hominid tracks, which you will note have baffled just about every real experienced mountaineer for over a century, were made by a local man wearing footgear such as he suggests, then first, everyone must have worn out the front half of both feet precisely, and in such a manner that neither show ever showed a single mark of where it ended or the bare toes protruded. Second, the men wearing these overshoes must all have been of an extremely rare type if they ever existed, having the second toe larger than the first, and both of them, and on both feet, also widely separated from the rest of the toes. That there could be so many such freaks among the limited population of that one area is much too much to ask. Also, it is manifest that Mr. Peisel has never seen an imprint or cast of the foot that made the medium-sized, the Mette tracks. They are positively shocking when first seen, being absolutely enormous, and the gaps between the separated toes are enormous too, which could not happen physically if the hole is enlarged by melting and regulation. Almost the same goes for those like Sir Edmund Hillary who have attempted to debunk the scalps. Maybe these are made from the shoulder skins of a seral, but were the makers not imitating something else they knew? And if these things are, in any case, only playthings like Christmas hats, further, even if they are not genuine Yeti scalps, what made the fresh footprints? Let us not forget that the crack in the giant squid was regarded as a fable for centuries until Professor A.E. Verrill took a small boat and went and got one alive off the coast of Newfoundland. Everybody except the North Atlantic fishermen had said they did not exist and could not exist. but reports of them persisted in coming in every year. I think people should pause, read the facts, and also consider a while before making any definitive statements about hominids of the Himalayas or anywhere else for that matter. And that's Ivan T. Sanderson's 2 cents worth.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I mean, it really goes to show, Duke, that when you look into the history of Newfoundland, I'll correct you on that one. Newfoundland. Boy, that looks like a good glass of iced tea. Looks like a good glass of iced tea, right? Oh yeah. But you know, when you go around, there really isn't a spot on this continent where these creatures haven't affected somebody.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the unknown relic hominids that seem to be everywhere on Earth, that's the whole point. You can go to some place where you're like, well, there's no Bigfoot here. Throw a dart at the map. Go there. Talk to the locals. Do you have any weird legends about hairy, huge things living in the woods? Yeah. They're everywhere. They're literally everywhere. But the locals aren't talking about it. Everybody thinks they're crazy. They don't spread their stories around. That happens a ton here in the U.S. too. You know, somebody sees a Bigfoot. Who do they tell? All their relatives laugh at them. They might tell the, crazy old grandpa who believes in Bigfoot because he's seen one when he was a kid. But other than that, who are they going to tell, And that was just a de rigueur until very recently when you started actually having organizations, internet interactions, and people could, see reports and, oh my God, this happened to somebody else. I should tell somebody about this. And that one, Never Finding Bigfoot show on TV made it more public for people to talk about it around the water cooler.
Oh, I hear you. Is it now more about popularity, Duke, than it is about research?
I don't know when it really was about research. It's always seemed like it was a popularity contest to me. I mean, even if you go back in the early days of Bigfooting in the Pac West and the Four Horsemen up there who would work with each other, but not necessarily anybody else. And from the time that Patterson Gimlin got their film until 27 years later, when Paul Freeman got his video over in the Blue Mountains, nobody over there got any actually decent evidence other than a few footprints. And, where were these guys the whole time? They weren't finding any Bigfoot in the woods. They were finding lots of, television cameras pointed at them in the woods occasionally, but they weren't finding any Bigfoot in the woods. John Green was actually tracking down reports, talking to the eyewitnesses, writing them down. Renee DeHinden was being a pain in the butt to everyone. And, Peter Byrne had already done his stint over in the Himalayas for 10 years and got not too much to show for it, but was kind of doing the same thing as Peter Byrne and tracking down eyewitness reports, which is all great. But when all it consists of is somebody called, they said they saw one over here. When? Yesterday, a week ago, whatever. They go investigate the area. They get the eyewitness report. They look around, see if they can find some tracks, and they go back home again. That's the end of the investigation. That's worthless. Actual field researchers go out there, spend time in the field where they know Bigfoot are, and gather information about them. None of those guys is doing that. And as former guest on your show, Blaine Tyler, rightly pointed out, in 27 years, those guys didn't find anything. And then when Paul Freeman actually got one on video, they all dogpiled on him and tried to discredit him. The only person that stuck up for him was Jeff Meldrum, who, by the way, bought the track cast that he had made of all the footprints. Because having the background he could take a look at him and go, these are real. This guy's making this stuff up. These footprints are real.
Very cool. Very cool. My friend, 35 seconds. Let everybody know where they can find World Bigfoot Radio.
Come during the celebration of 20,000 subs with us this Sunday at 8 Central, and I will once again have the Transcontinental Connection, William Lunsford from the Falk, Arkansas area, the Falk Monster Hunter, and Daniel Becker, the Alaskan Sasquatch Tracker, both together on the show again. And come on over and hang out with us and enjoy the fun.
Always a pleasure to have you here on a very short version of the Crypted Report. Super Duke for World Bigfoot Radio. You are a god among gods when it comes to everything cryptid. Thank you for coming back on. Coming up next, we are going to have the Dave 101. Do they really want us to find the proof? We'll get to it when we return on Space. Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear, man.
That Marvin the Merchant kills me. That thing's fucking hilarious.
You know what? You know what the thing is? I've tried looking for other ones. I bought this at a Walmart in a kids section, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Can't find them anymore.
I actually remember seeing those on the shelf, and it was quite a few years ago, and I have not seen them since then either.
Oh, this thing's like, I think it's like 15, 20 years old.
That's
now.
what I'm saying. Yeah, it was a long time
Yeah.
ago, and I've never seen them since then. And I kind of went like, "Oh, if they would have had one my size, I would have probably got it." You know, but
Oh yeah,
big-
I stretched it out. I
big
did
old
that on
Sasquatch
purpose.
head.
Oh,
Somebody in
yeah.
chat was talking earlier about the Glag saga and what that was like going out and camping with Kevin, and instead of typing it all down, here's the way faster version. It was really great to have him up here, but it was super stressful because he was coming up here because this is the closest he had been to the Pac West in 35 years, and he was hoping he might have some kind of a chance of finding Glag while he was up here. So that put all kinds of pressure on me, not just, hey, take us out and show us a Bigfoot, but hey, take me out and show me one particular Bigfoot. Oh, sure. No pressure there. That's really doable. And I felt like, well, come on up. I'm going to take you where there are Bigfoot. I don't know what's going to happen. And there's, in my mind, there was like no chance that was ever going to happen. But the interesting thing was that Kevin had 3 psychics telling him that they were in communication with Glag. They would let him know where and when Kevin was going to be so Glag could show up. Kevin didn't really believe them. I certainly didn't believe them at that time. Then when we showed up there and Glag was there, I started to strongly believe there's no freaking way he could. So that was when I started believing a lot more in the woo right then.
Appreciate it. Appreciate that. Your internet's starting to freeze up on us, buddy.
Sorry, guys. It's the bad guys. They don't want you to hear this stuff. Well, anyway, so you can get prepped for the angry old man rant show. Get off my lawn!
All right. Get off my lawn, you hairy bastards!
Get off my lawn, you damn probe happy saucer jockeys! I'll skin another one and make another head out of you.
Oh, we need to put that on a commercial. Oh, can you record that for me?
Hey, you just got it recorded. Come on, just lift the audio track. Yes, I can record it for you.
I appreciate that. Love you, man.
Take care, you guys. Everybody take care. Be nice to each other.
We'll talk to you next week. Super Duke for World Bigfoot Radio. He's awesome. Quickly here, Delta Tester Cat. I'm not sure what you were mentioning about my words that I said about experiencers or something. When I'm speaking and then going through the show, I'm not really like, I have a lot of things I need to pay attention to. So I'm not really sure what comment that I made that bugged you. That's all I'm asking in the chat room is like, what did I say that bugged you? Let me know. Let me know. Corey Cole, how you doing? Good to have you here. Remember, guys, if you haven't already signed up for our 2023 second annual Las Vegas party, all for you, the fans, to come hang out with us, you could do so by going to our group Spaced Out Radio, or just type into Facebook our event for Las Vegas, which is called the second annual Spaced Out Radio Fan Party in Las Vegas. I'll put the link in the chat room here. Let's see. That extended link isn't going to work because there's not enough space on there. But you know what? It's going to be a great weekend. We got a lot of really cool people coming in saying that they want to be involved with what we are doing, and they want to be part of it. So my suggestion to you is come join us. Come join us. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have a great time. And you know what? I'd love to be there with you. I really, really would. So come join us. May 19th to 21st, 2023. We are going to have a great time. So that's my opinion. That's my opinion. I want to see all of you there. I really do. All right. From the dead, Tupac Shakur, welcome to our chat room. Dennis Zuniga, a great veteran, welcome back. And thank you to our super chatters, Apollo, Molly, Flash Forward, Cat Chaser, Smithy, Enki, Carlito, Pam, Laura, and Scrubba Dub Dub. Here we go, everyone. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Sharky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time of the week where I decide to yell at people to get off my snowy because it's the Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
Lately, you've heard a lot of harping from me about NASA and the extended UFO cover-up, as, in my opinion, they are claiming that they know nothing about this subject and are pretty much playing us for fools. But it isn't just NASA that is doing this. It's the United States government. It's the United States military. It's everybody who has a chance of having a little bit of power who is shrugging off this topic to the public. And that is what I find a little bothersome, because many of us are falling for it. And maybe that's exactly what they want, as this narrative that is hidden under the word disclosure continues to haunt us. Yeah, it continues to haunt us. As you've heard me say over and over the last few weeks, there is no such thing as disclosure. No, what we are getting is a confirmation of the phenomena and its existence. The problem is, what they do know, they don't want you, me, or any other ally or enemy to know about what they know. Why? What do they know that is so important and so shocking that they are acting like strict parents in trying to control what their children see, think, hear, and read? I want you to think about that, because UFOs, whether you believe in them or not, are here. Where they come from, it hasn't been proven. Personally, I think they are coming from space or a different dimension. Others will tell you maybe they're time travelers or coming from inner Earth. We all have an opinion. We all want that opinion heard. But how can you really, really get down to figuring out what these really are when we're not getting any answers? I don't know about you, but I am getting sick and tired of being treated as a fool, that I am not ready to understand what is going on. I don't care if it's national security or hidden under that banner. I know what I've seen. I know what I've experienced. Others who've experienced the same phenomena will tell you the exact same thing. We don't need disclosure. We need to know why. Why is it happening to me? Why is it happening to my children, members of my family, my friends, my listeners? That's who we need the answers for. Look, this isn't about what are they or the technology, because frankly, I could really give a rat's ass on whether or not one of these craft can break the sound barrier without any sound, or whether it can drop from 80,000 feet down to 10 feet above seawater in less than a second. Impressive as it is, it's not what I want to know. I want to know who those gray guys were that I've seen. I want to know what that alien was in the forest that I met with Samantha Mowat in 2014. 5 days previous, I want to know what that UFO was on the ground that called me outside my friend's house for me to look at and light up on my command. That's what I want to know. But you got to realize something here. There is a major game, a war game, I'm going to call it, on social media and in the public about this topic. We have people who claim to be on the side of ufology who work for the government. We got people who claim that there is no such thing going on. But are they just being skeptical, or are they being told to say that? We have bots all over Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and other social media platforms shooting down anybody who has a differing opinion when it comes to UFOs. I got one tonight on Twitter about UAP activism, where the person says, reply to me, so do something, or is that a silly request? After I had stated to another person, I think you're overestimating the we portion of your statement regarding UAP activists. I said, I want disclosure too, but I want real disclosure, not this confirmation stew we are being fed. Remember, I am an experiencer like you. So this other person chimed in once again, so do something, or is that a silly request? Last I checked, I host a popular radio show 5 days a week talking about these topics. I do my best to get that information to you with a valid opinion. It's your choice whether or not you believe my opinion. But the constant bickering and fighting and whining about what this is, what they are, where they come from, where did they go, where did they come from? Cotton Eye Joe, you know the song from the 90s that we all boogied to in the nightclubs. That's what it's all about. We want answers. They don't want to give us the answers. They send in people to tease us with the answers. They send the media to give us teasing about the answers. Bill Nelson from NASA's teasing about the answers. All it is one giant alien tease. That's it. And begrudgingly, for what we do, we have to keep up with it. Like I've said to you before, there are very few subjects in this world outside of Jesus Christ himself coming down from the heavens, or Armageddon, or nuclear war, that will affect every single person on this planet. And right now, there is only a handful of people who are controlling this planet's destiny into space. Allegedly. We can sit here and we can whine bitch, moan, complain about whatever we want regarding UFOs. But the fact is, they, being those in power, are not going to give us a thing. Why do you think our UFO report that was due to Congress is well over a week late? Look, there are people like Dr. Bob McGuire who think that everything's going to come out. And he may be right. But I don't believe it. I'll wait and see when it does come out. Because disclosure, my friends, isn't about UFOs. It's about what are they doing here. It's not about the technology to keep the war machine going. It's about these aliens have potentially traveled across our solar system from who knows where to knock on our doors and say, hey, what are you humans all about? This is why, if you look at everything that is going on, have you noticed that only people who they care to quote on anything UFO is either A, a military pilot or service person, or B, an airline pilot now. So the rest of you out there can put your cameras down because the military and the airlines got this covered. Well, that isn't good enough for old Davy and shouldn't be good enough for any of you. No, keep your cameras in the sky. Keep looking. Keep your search on. Keep your quest for answers going. We don't know where this road is taking us, but the one thing that I can tell you point blank is the road to disclosure does not travel through the hallowed halls of Washington, D.C., because anything on that road is filled with potholes waiting to pop your tires. That's it. They don't want to give us answers. The Navy doesn't want to give us more videos. If the media cared, they would be playing videos from people within their community, high quality videos of things that can't be answered. There are hundreds of UFO videos downloaded to places like YouTube, Facebook, TikTok every single day. We can get our own disclosure. We don't need the government to play games with us, especially those who've experienced the phenomena to a point where it's changed their lives. And yet here we are being ragdolled by a government entity that really doesn't care about you, doesn't care about me, doesn't care whether this story comes out or not. Because all they are interested in is grabbing this technology and trying to use it for their own military benefit. That's what the military industrial complex is all about. And it's not going to get any better. It doesn't matter what Chris Mellon says, or Lou Elizondo says, or Brandon Fugel, or Travis Taylor, or any of the Congress people or senators who are pushing for this topic to go more public. And think about it. Let's talk about those senators. Let's talk about those Congress people who are pushing for it. If they really, really cared about learning about this and bringing it into the public eye, why would they allow the report to be late? Number one. And number two, why is it being discussed closed doors? Don't give me the Russia crap. Don't give me the China crap. Don't give me the negative entity crap. Tell the truth. Show us what you got. Humanity deserves the answers on this. Humanity deserves to know that we may not be alone. Humanity deserves to know that the possibility of a better future is out there among the stars or in the future, wherever they come from. And that's what bothers me about these UFO activists out there. Not all of them. Not all of them. There's some good people. They want this to happen. But to blindly cheer on everybody who just mentions the word UAP or UFO in government, in the military, in the media, or if you have a blue check mark on Twitter, they blindly follow you because you have influence. They don't care about the truth, many of them. They just want the subject at the forefront. And their answer to it when you question them is, hey, they're talking about it. That's all that matters. It's all that matters. No, it's not what matters. Tell that to the person whose life has been ruined by aliens anal probing them or putting needles in their eyes. Tell that to the person who can't sleep at night, who wakes up to gray aliens 3-4 nights a week and has a fear of going to sleep now. Tell that to people who've lost their jobs because they can't handle the contact. Tell that to people who just have had a positive experience, but just want to know more about why they were chosen to be taken. The government isn't going to answer those questions. Neither are people like you and I. But we got to keep pushing. We have to keep pushing for the truth, wherever that truth takes us. But like I said before, if you think that truth is going to come from a voice, a suit, a skirt in Washington, D.C., you've got another thing coming, because your disclosure is not disclosure at all. And that is your Dave 101 for this week. Thank you for letting me rant. And when this hits YouTube, do me a favor, let me know what your opinion is. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think we're having the wool pulled over our eyes, or is this the exact way it should go? Let me know down below. And now, it's time for Sharky Poo's News.
What time is it?
It's time for Sharky Poo's News!
Yes, let's get to Sharky Poo's News. Hey, remember a few months ago we had that story on Sharky Poo's News where the woman claimed that she was arrested for being way too good looking? Well, apparently she is a feisty lass who is now accused of killing her mother. Yes, a woman who claims she was arrested for being too good looking after she skipped out on a Las Vegas Chili's bill earlier this year is now being accused of stabbing her mother to death. 28-year-old Hen Bustami faces murder charges after the body of her 62-year-old mother was discovered in her Las Vegas home. Police responded after receiving a 911 call from a frantic female claiming her mother was dead. Bustami's mother was found suffering from multiple deep lacerations. Police were called to the home at least a dozen times this year, 7 visits for a family disturbance and 1 for a suicide attempt. Neighbors said their home was the loudest on the block. Usually 10 p.m. or later, they would just be screaming in the backyard or they'd be fighting, said neighbor Andres Moreno. It was usually the older daughter and the mother that would get into it, he claimed. Of course, shortly after the screaming, police presence would be involved and things would get all, settled down. Then a week later, boom, and it would happen again. Moreno said Bustami acted strangely around the neighborhood, going into houses with open garages, throwing her belongings outside, and asking strangers for rides. I believe she had a mental health issue, and she desperately needed help, and maybe chose not to get it, he speculated. Or, who am I to say? But there was obviously something going on with her. In August, Bustami made headlines after she was arrested at the Harry Reid Airport in Las Vegas when she tried to skip out on her bill at a Chili's restaurant. Bustami was reportedly drunk and apparently accused police of harassing her because they'd never seen anyone as pretty as her. Wow. A man has spoken out after discovering that his girlfriend was actually married to 5 men and had another lover at the same time. Must have been a lot to process. And 43-year-old Wayne Harper must have thought that he had wasted the 18 months the pair had spent together when he found out. He called the time on the relationship after discovering that Horn had been having an affair. But then it turned out that she was married to 5 other dudes as well, but only after he had said that he'd stand by her so long as she remained loyal. When that relationship finished, Horn then went on to marry 2 more men, making her one of Britain's most prolific bigamists. That's 7 husbands in total, in case you've lost track. Yeah, Harper and Horn met up when they were both in hospital together. He was in after a cycling accident. She was in recovery from a minor operation. After they had been together for more than a year, he accused her of cheating on him, ending their relationship. She says, "I split up with her. It was my doing because I found out she was cheating. I was only with her 18 months, and it wasn't a happy ending. I have nothing left of her in my life. No pictures, nothing. I was her partner, not a husband, at the time that she had 5 husbands already." Wow, that lady gets around. And finally tonight, an airline passenger in Florida tried a novel way to sneak a gun with them as they traveled. How? They stuck it inside a raw chicken. Yeah, TSA suspected foul play when they found the gun at the Fort Lauderdale airport. They tweeted about the bizarre discovery. "There's a personal foul here." Oh, that's nice. "Our officers made this very raw find. We hate to break it to you, but stuffing a firearm in your holiday bird for travel is just a waste of time. A waste of time." Oh, that was just terrible dad joke right there. At least they found the humor in it. There was no immediate word on charges. Travelers are required to declare each firearm that is placed in checked baggage. Any firearms placed in checked baggage must be unloaded and locked in a hard-sided container and transported as checked baggage only, as the TTSA or the TSA states. That's it for your news tonight. Thank you, Sharky Poo, for coming on in. Thank you to Super Duke for World Bigfoot Radio, for the Crypted Report, Swamp Dweller, for a story from the swamp, and Darcy Weir and Brandon Thomas coming in from Secret Space UFOs. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. Spreaker, YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home.
I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, hey, we've got room for them too. Good night. Yeah, man. Solid show. Solid show. That's good stuff right there. That's some serious pork and beans right there, people. Serious pork and beans. Who's on tomorrow night? Oh, Bill and JC Kasulis. We're going to be talking Dogman and Mothman. Mothman mostly. It's going to be a great show tomorrow night. Man, what a kick-ass night tonight. That's good stuff. Very proud of all of you for tuning us in and hanging on out, being there for us. Yeah, that's good. Very good stuff. By the way, it is now Remembrance Day here in Canada, Veterans Day in the United States. I want to say a big thank you to all of our veterans out there, those who made it, those who didn't, those who have had difficulty since coming back. We love you. You always have a safe home here at Spaced Out Radio. And thank you so much for your dedication and your service, for serving for us and putting your life on the line for us. We love you for it. And if there's anything that we could ever do for you, you make sure you let us know, because you are worth it. You are valued. And we thank you every day for our freedom that we have in living in two of the best countries in the world. And many of our listeners are around the countries who are free because of people like you. So thank you so much for doing what you did in the service, or if you're continuing to serve whatever country you are. Thank you so much. We love you. And, to our veterans who are in our chat room on a nightly basis, Black Dragon, the former Marine, former Air Force, Human Carl, Dennis Zuniga, I believe he was Army, and the many more of you who have served. God bless you, and thank you for everything that you've done. And we love you for it. So thank you very much. Super Quest, Roy Washington, he's a veteran too. We love you, Roy. And you're awesome dude, man. And Simon in Australia, thank you so much for adding to the super chats tonight. And we really appreciate it. And hot damn, people, this has been a good night. I'm just pumped right up. And I'm excited about this weekend. Today's been a good day. And I blame Terry Hall for making sure I had a good day today. We got a brand new radio station that will be signing up by the end of next week. And I'm not going to say who, what, where, when, why just yet, but I'm very excited about this location. It's not the biggest location. It's not the smallest, but I can tell you one thing. It is a very powerful location for us to get. And Terry, hats off to you, no pun intended, for doing what you do. And, there's more to come. We're going to continue growing here over the next little bit. And I'm very excited about our prospects for expanding this show right across North America as we speak. And hi, Skip to my Lou. How are you? Who else did I see in here? Paramarv, how you doing? Mystics Walk. GF. What's going on there? All right. Where is that? And it should be right about there. Should be right around there. Yep. And then I have a boys' weekend at home this weekend. Yep. A boys' weekend at home where my little guy and I are already planning what we're going to be doing. Sunday, we're going to be traveling for some hockey. Saturday, we got hockey practice. And then he's like, Dad, I think we need to go out for dinner. I said, yeah, I think you and I need to go out for dinner. And so we're going to do that. We got a guys' weekend planned here. And I'm very much looking forward to it. And yeah, we might go see if we can get out into the snow and play around for a little bit. God, there's so much snow up here right now. And YJ knows what I'm talking about, but we're going to try and get into our site at least one more time. And It's a good night, man. It's a good night. Where do we start this bad boy? Right there. End it right there. I think. That is it. Son of a gun. Look at that. All right. Roy Washington is in Milwaukee, I think. I know he's a Brewers fan. I know he's a Bucks fan. We need to get Super Quest to Vegas for our fan party. We know Teresa's going to be there. We know Dirty Filth is going to be there. We know. Oh, we know. Actually, Lurks a lot. That's believe it or not, I have my son's hockey coach, one of his coaches, approached me the other night before practice. This was just, it was yesterday, actually. Yeah, yesterday. And good night, Terry Hall. He approached me yesterday and he's like, I was listening to your show with Chris Reinhardt about Sasquatch. He goes, dude, I was talking to a friend of mine about you and your radio show and everything. And he goes, I got to tell you some areas that are like right around me, like where footprints have been found and noises to the point where this one old time logger, hey, Ozzy Ange, how are you? How's tomorrow? How's later today? But anyways, so I'm in the 108 and apparently in the 111, which is like 3 miles away. Go figure if you do your mathematics correctly. Way up in the backwoods, there happens to be some high strangeness going on. And it's kind of interesting. It's very kind of interesting. Oh, right there it is. Yeah, so I'm going to be taking a trip back there because apparently this dude will not go logging in that area. Will not go logging in that area. Oh, yeah. You're very right, Lurks a lot. What happened to the Mister? How come it just Lurks a lot now, by the way? I was curious. It's not his land. 737. Don't know where that came from, but no. Cut. So this should be probably around right here. Yep. Oh, that's the reasoning. Boy, my hair looks lovely. Remember the days when I had nice hair? Now look at it. Terrible. How does one go out in public like that? I spent $150 today on brand new winter boots for my son. $150 for a pair of winter boots. Yeah. Talk about inflation. My goodness. $150 for a pair of winter boots. The good news is they're good to minus 40 degrees Celsius or minus 40 Fahrenheit. Hey, Dry Toast. The best name on YouTube right there, Dry Toast. Blown away by that. I thought maybe $60 or something like that. No, 150. My son and his buddies are always out playing outside. Don't need his feet getting cold. $150. Exactly. No, I bought a little bit. I bought him a size bigger. I bought him a size bigger, so hopefully we get 2 years out of him. Then we'll save him for my grand boy. Anyways, I'll be right back. Going to take a bathroom break. right. How we all doing? All right. We having a good time? See if there's anything happening in Africa. In Namibia. Anything happening there? Oh, just a bunch of oryx and drunk canoes. No, those are ostriches coming on in. I'll show you this in a minute. Hold on. There's like a pack of like 30 ostriches slowly sneaking up on the oryx right now. Bear with me. We'll get them to you here momentarily. This could be good. We might see a good brawl here. I'd like to see this happening. Let's get this over here. Expand that. Present this. Check this out. All in behind here, that's all ostriches. All ostriches. There's one canoe over here. And you got the oryx right here. Blocking the waterway. They're like, hey, screw you, birds. We're going to drink here first. Look at all them ostriches coming on in. Oh, no, those are more oryx back there. I thought they were wildebeest. I've never seen that many ostriches before. Look at this guy. He's like, hey, what the hell you guys staring at? Can't you see we're just trying to get a drink around here? At least the ostriches are being polite here. Waiting their turn. YJ, how's your snow situation? Yes, by the way, America, we are only a couple weeks away from Black Friday. And, oh, yeah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that oryx. He's like, screw you, ostriches. Stay away from my salt lick. Look at all them ostriches. Holy cow. That is impressive. Never seen that many ostriches. Look at this. That's just amazing. Oh, this oryx is having none of it. He's like, you two-legged bastards, moving in on the water with that ugly neck. That oryx is a good-looking animal, though. Totally good-looking animal. Bear with me here 2 seconds, guys. Impressive. That one oryx cleared them all out. Hi, Osman and Palmer. right. Tomorrow night on the show, Bill and JC Kusulis talking Mothman and other cryptids. Want to say a big thank you to all of you tuning in tonight, giving us a thumbs up, thumbs down. Don't forget to leave a comment after the show. It helps out with the algorithms. Thank you so much to all of our new subscribers who've tuned us on in. We very much appreciate it. And, of course, to our super chatters tonight, Smithy, Enki, Carlito, Pam, Laura, Scrub-a-Dub-Dub, Cat Chaser ×2, Flash Forward, Molly, Apollo, and Simon in Australia. Very much appreciate you. Guys, we're going to call it the night. We'll see you tomorrow night talking Mothman. Take care.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.